The views and opinions expressed by tonight's guest and topic of discussion do not necessarily represent the official policy or position of Spaced Out Radio, Spaced Out Saturdays or Sundays, SOR Media, its hosts, syndicated carriers, or anyone associated with this broadcast. Any rebroadcast, reproduction, or other use of this broadcast or podcast without the expressed written consent of SOR Media is strictly prohibited. Listener discretion is advised. Are you experienced? Then come own the night with us.
Little brother has taken control, shoveling dirt in every hole. Predators to condemn your soul, watching you and watching me. We're all
Station atop the mountains of British Columbia, live from SOR headquarters. This is Spaced Out Radio with host Dave Scott.
We live behind glass curtains and act like nothing's wrong. Soon you will belong.
You can follow us on our website, spacedoutradio.com, and on Spaced Out Radio on iTunes. You can follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, and on Instagram at Dave Scott SOR, on Facebook at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio.
Brother wants to make headlines, be immortalized. Everyone's got an electric eye with the digital spies. They've watched you for so long. I know you're out there somewhere watching me.
Buckle up, space travelers. It's time to go for a ride on Spaced Out Radio with host Dave Scott.
I know you're out there somewhere. We've watched you for so long. Wait for you to fall. We'll expose you all. I know you're out there somewhere watching me. Little brother wants to make headlines, be immortalized. Everyone's got an electric eye with the digital spies.
It's Thursday, July 12th, Friday, July 13th, if you're on the East Coast or across the pond. And this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. Hope you had a great day and night. I am your host, Dave Scott, broadcasting to you from the Great White North, on top of the mountains of central British Columbia, right here at SOR headquarters. We are 150,000 strong nightly on the SOR radio network and the Deep Talk radio network, and we welcome you to tonight's fantastic show. You can also listen to our archives on YouTube. They are free. YouTube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me a favor and hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you. You can rock out to some Bumblefoot, shop at our Spaced Out Radio store, read up on the encounter online, and so much more. Tonight, I hope you have a comfy seat. I hope you're ready for some fantastic storytelling, as tonight we go into the dark with Dark Waters. Yes, he's back. Dark Waters has quickly rose up the ranks as one of the best storytellers of the horror generation. Now, when we talk horror, we're not talking about horror movies. We're talking about tales of real stories from real people with real encounters. Dogman, Bigfoot, aliens, ghosts, you name it, Dark Waters has the beautiful voice to send shivers down your spine. His website is IamDarkWaters.com. Hailing from New Orleans, Louisiana, a paranormal hotspot, Dark's down-home southern vernacular combined with his smooth voice and outgoing personality have quickly made him a household name. He will be with us for 2.5 hours. Then at the bottom of hour number 3, Everett Thiemer will be back with The Encounter. detailing all the weird, strange news stories of the day. We welcome back Dark Waters to Spaced Out Radio. My friend, always a pleasure to have you on this show. How you been?
I'm doing good, David. Dave, how are you, man?
I am good, and I want to let the audience know that there is a little bit of a snafu, potentially, with Dark Waters tonight, because where he is, there's a major storm going on. The lights are flickering. So we're going to try and do this as much as we possibly can, and hopefully we don't get knocked off the air with him. But nonetheless, we always like to keep our audience informed, and, you know, it's all good to go, my friend. It is all good to go. What is new? What have you been up to?
Man, you know, I've been listening to all these stories that people share with me, trying not to freak out, trying not to pee on myself, and in other cases, laughing at people, because I got some real deranged, crazy people calling me. But I've been, you know, practicing my craft. Just really trying to gather as much information, as many stories as I can from people. It's getting to the point to where it's a little bit overwhelming at times, but nonetheless, I love talking to people, so I continue to do it, you know?
I totally get that, my friend. And the stories that people share with you, they're sharing some of the worst experiences of their life, something that has absolutely petrified them to the point where they feel all alone in this world. How do you go about being not only a storyteller, Dark, but you're kind of like a counselor as well for these people who don't know where else to turn?
Yeah, in some situations I am. I really am kind of counseling them, although I don't have any kind of formal education in it. But I understand people, and most people just want someone to listen to them and genuinely show that they care about them. So what I do is I sit there and I lend them my ear and my full attention, which, you know, even today, most people don't even give you their full attention. They're thinking about something, they're, you know, playing with their phone. And it seems to be enough to kind of get most people over that hurdle of whatever it is that's kind of plaguing them. Now, there's some people I talk to that really need, you know, serious counseling, because they got crazy stuff that's happened to them. But for the most part, I reserve a block of time and give 100% of my attention to that person. And that's how we get past the majority of the stuff. You know, if we start talking about demonic stuff, like really hardcore stuff, then that they need to be referred to someone, one of the demonologists or one of the pastors or priests that I work with. And that's pretty much how I handle it.
As your name has grown, you are getting stories from literally all across America, North America, and potentially the world in regards to this. How do you do your research to show that somebody is not handing you a line of crap in order to try and get 15 minutes of fame with the famous Dark Waters? How do you know that the stories are true?
Well, the number one deterrent for that is I never use the person's name in a story, like a real name in a story. So it kind of deters anyone getting kind of notoriety, because I tell them up front, listen, I'm not going to use your name if I tell your story, for the simple fact that I don't want people just calling me to say, hey, my name is Tammy and Dark Waters, can you tell my story? You know, and I don't want to do it that way, so people won't kind of be seeking that little fame and glory. That's number one. And number two, it really boils down to the amount of time that you spend talking to that person. Again, I started off by saying I give them 100% of my attention for that time that we're speaking. But it's not just that I'm giving 100% of my attention, not just to hear the encounter, but to actually dissect the words that are coming out of their mouth, and the tonality of what's coming out of their mouth. How many times they're breathing, if their breathing rate increases, if they sound nervous, all the little minor keys that, and tells is the better word, the minor tells that let you know if someone telling you the truth or not. And so that's really what I spend the majority of the time doing, listening to the story over and over and over again, so I can find those tells.
So Out of every 10 stories or leads that you get on a story, how many of them will be complete BS and how many will have some real genuine wow factor?
If we say out of 10, I'll probably get 10 out of 10 that has something that's really true. If you go out of a sample of maybe 50 people, I would say maybe 3 out of that 50 phone calls will be someone who's trolling or, just trying to pull my strings. The rest of the people kind of fall into different categories outside of, BS and lying with their story. One person, some people fall in the category of, hey, I just want to talk to dog. I want to know if the number's real and if he actually answers the phone, because people test me for that. Hey, I wanted to see if you would answer the phone. Then there's people who've had encounters and experiences, and they're not even sure of what it is, right? They've had something happen, but they're looking for answers. And then there's the people who straight up call you to tell you the story of what happened to them. It's been on their mind since they was a child, and they know something happened. They've independently kind of researched it, and now they're looking for someone that has a little bit more knowledge in order to try and help them go in the right direction. So those are pretty much the categories of people that call. So when we chunk down to, how many of those people are just flat out lying, it's a very, very small portion of people who call me lying because of the simple fact that I don't incentivize it. So there's no incentive to call me and waste your time and my time telling me, a bodacious lie, because I'm not going to give you credit for it. You know what I'm saying? I'm not finna say, oh, I got this story from Bill from Arkansas. So it doesn't really do them any good.
When you look at it and you listen to all these topics and all these stories, and you have heard, an insurmountable amount of incredible stories that people are convinced they are happening, how many of them do you actually believe that they have had that experience? Like, everybody has that experience, but have you ever questioned some people in the back of your mind, maybe not publicly or to them, that, are you on drugs? How much do you drink? Because some of the encounters that you come across have to be so unbelievable that you would think that they're only found in a comic book.
Well, two things. Number one, just because of human nature, I never ever tell anyone, hey man, you're full of crap. Or when we get down to that small percentage of people who may be kind of BSing me, I never tell them that, hey, I think it's BS. I let my tone explain that. So I change my tonality of my voice and kind of use a tone that lets them know, okay, man, you're wasting my time. And that way, I never want to push anybody in any direction, because, for example, you may have someone who's reaching out to tell me a story or even making up a story, but it's just a cry for attention, maybe suicidal, or maybe thinking bad thoughts. And so if you sit there and you tell them, hey, man, I don't believe you, that's more than enough to push a person over the edge, And I'm not in it for that. I'm in it to help people and help them get past it. Then when the original question was, do I believe people? Yeah, for the most part. And the way I get to the point of belief. So, for example, when a phone rings and someone, if it was you and you said, hi, I'm Dave and I want to tell you a story. I don't start believing the story until I've heard the story 8, 9 times. And I've had an opportunity to question you about what happened. So I give the person more than enough time, ample time to tell me their story, and enough time to make mistakes in telling their story as well. Because, there's always little slight deviations from each time a person explains something to you. And that's due to them maybe remembering more, or sometimes they forget a small detail that they mentioned prior to that. So when I do spend a significant amount of time listening, and the key word is listening, active listening, you can listen to somebody and then not hear anything they say. But I spend a significant amount of time active listening, and that's how I get past the small hurdles and it really is small hurdles of if someone is lying or not. You can almost tell when someone's lying because they're this kind of, how when you're talking to someone, you can hear a smile on the phone. Like you'll say, I heard them smiling, they were so bubbly, bright. Well, when someone's lying and they're intentionally doing it, you can hear the smirk in their voice. You know what I'm saying? You can hear those things once you've been trained, and which I have, to really focus on what a person's saying. Like even now, as I'm talking to you, my eyes are closed, my hands over my eyes, because I'm only focusing on the words coming out of my mouth and the words coming out of your mouth. So I'm using my mind and only my voice. So I don't want any visuals coming into my eye socket. So I'm kind of depriving myself that sense so I can give you 100% of my attention. So, and that's some of the techniques that I use when I'm talking to people.
What is funny that you say that is usually when I'm asking questions, I close my eyes as well. It's amazing how you can focus on the minute details that normally you wouldn't think of when your eyes are closed.
No, absolutely. And it's because your brain is not having to process that extra sense. You're not having to process just staring at a wall. You're still processing the fact that it's just a wall in front of you. So your brain is not having to process that. And so it allows you to be a little bit more focused. So I'm kind of giving away the tricks of the trade, but hey, it is what it is.
You have covered so many topics, from voodoo and hoodoo to dogman, Bigfoot, gnomes, aliens. When I look at you, I think you're a man of an incredible talent, and that's why I love speaking with you. But I got to ask, are there any topics that are just absolute no-goes for you when you go to take someone's story down? Because I think we all have our limits, Dark, in what we will talk about and what we won't.
There was a limitation, and it was demonic stuff was something that was off the table for a while. But as I've grown as a person and grown in the knowledge and understanding of how to protect myself, that has dropped significantly down to the bottom of the list. I'm not even worried about it anymore because I understand how to deal with it and how to kind of protect myself from it. But that was my thing. My thing was, man, don't call me with a demon story. I don't want to hear it. And that was based on some experiences I had with other people who had demonic attachments. One in particular where whatever this entity was, and I'll use the word entity, came to pay me a visit at night and ended up sticking its finger down my nose, which, you know, your nasal cavity connects to your throat. And it went through my nose and down into my throat. And I felt this sharp pinch inside my throat. And then it kept on going down a little bit further down my esophagus, and I could feel it scratching. And this happened in the middle of the night. I woke up to that. So trust me when I say that was a huge issue for me. But I'm over it now. I got past it now.
I haven't been attacked very often. It has happened a couple of times this year. The first time was a few months ago, my friend. I woke up and I walked to the bedroom, and my wife says to me, or walked to the bathroom on our ensuite, my wife says to me, dude, you got like 2 long cat scratches. And you know, when a cat scratches you, you kind of get that stuttering effect on the skin.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And I forgot to take a picture of it. And about 5 hours later, I remembered, and I called my wife and I said, I need you to take a picture of that scratch. That was really weird. And it was completely gone. Like there was no markings, no scarring, nothing. Completely gone. And then a few weeks ago, I do a tour at our local museum here. One of the ghosts got really pissed off with us, and he actually attacked me to the point where I was like keeled over, dry heaving. And thank God I had a shaman friend of mine, Derek White Sky Cloud, there with me when this incident happened. But I mean, it's dangerous when you're playing with the paranormal, because you really don't know what you're going to do or say that's going to cause a spirit to attack, whether it's demonic or whether it's just angry, and you don't know if it's going to be because of something you did or they're just exacting revenge on you because of something someone else did.
No, absolutely. And that's why I approach everything with respect, and I try and be as respectful as possible when I'm dealing in the paranormal realm. You know, a lot of people just run around, they're brash and they're harsh and they're trying to, what do you call, provoke different things. I'm not interested in provoking anything's anger or anything like that. All I want to do is get the story and accurately retell the story to the best of my ability. And sometimes there are a few hindrances. Like, for example, there was one guy's story, and I memorize all the stories that people share with me. That's how come I'm able to sit here and tell you story after story after story. I don't write it down while you're talking to me. I literally use a little framing technique in my mind, which creates little small anchors for me to remember the whole story. But there's been times where people have had things attached to them to where it was a very short experience and a very short encounter, but for whatever reason, my brain would not memorize it. And when I tell you I memorize things all day long, like at work, if I'm talking to someone and they so happen to give me like a credit card and I'm going to make a payment, for the most part, I remember that credit card number for the next 2 hours, and then eventually my brain lets it go. So that's the kind of brain I have. But there's times when I talk to some people where, for no matter what I try to do to remember, no matter what type of memory technique I use, that information just doesn't stick. I mean, it really doesn't. So you do have to be careful when you're dealing in the paranormal realm, because there are spiritual forces that are at work that could really affect you negatively, you know?
Dark, for people who are new to you, because our listenership is always changing, why did you get into this? Why did you feel it was necessary that you took the torch to tell some incredible experience stories of real people?
Well, there are a number of reasons why I started. I've always been a storyteller, though. Throughout my whole life, I've been an entertainer. And what I mean by entertainer is, you're in a group of people, a crowd full of people, and everybody's hanging out. I've always been that guy that would sit there and run his mouth and tell stories about my own personal life and my personal experiences and kind of captivate people and crack jokes. And I'm a really outgoing person. That was the first thing. And that's pretty much how I developed the storytelling abilities. But then when it came down to the paranormal, I started trying to find a way to use a lot of my life's experiences, which are extremely unique. And when it boiled down to looking at what was out there, I was like, oh, I definitely can tell someone a paranormal story. And so I started listening to other people sharing stories, like on YouTube and in different platforms. And I was like, wow, these guys really can't tell a story. They're reading stories. And I was like, well, I can do better than them. I know I can do better than them. And so I started, and then I made the decision to start taking people's phone calls. And after I did that, that took it to another level, because there was a certain level of personal responsibility. I had to be responsible to that person who's sharing that story with me. And then it moved forward and it blew up, and it's been a great experience. But I can honestly tell you now, part of it was a selfish reason when I first started, and part of it was my competitive nature. And then the other part was all of my paranormal experiences that I've had throughout my life. I've searched for answers for those things. Even as a kid, I would have things that I searched for answers for and weren't able to find them. And so when you have those experiences, the best thing you can do with them is share them to the world.
And I think that's important, that people like you take the time to share those stories of the encounters people are having around the world, because this is what brings it to the forefront. And like ufologist Grant Cameron says, maybe it's time, in order to solve some of these mysteries, instead of looking so much into the science about it and the government to answer these questions, maybe it's the experiencers themselves that have the answers deep down. And if we get enough of those experiences, maybe we could put those puzzle pieces together to solve the mystery. What's your thoughts on that?
Yep. No, I think that's a great approach to it, because the government's only going to disclose what they want to disclose, but the person who's been through the encounter, if you can get them to talk, they're going to be a treasure trove of information. Did you see the guy who who was able to summon UFOs. I think he named himself Yahweh. It was a news story where this guy was actually able to summon UFOs. What did you think about that? I saw that today. A friend of mine sent that to me. I was like, how could this be a hoax? Because, this guy's like on news, like on the news program. It wasn't like he was, they were looking to get and take advantage of him, like a gotcha moment for him. And then next thing you know, a big orb is flying around in the sky.
Yeah, you know what? There's been a few people like that. There's a guy out of L.A., Robert Bingham, who was who used to do that as well. And, I actually, a few years ago, before I started this show, when I was having numerous UFO sightings, I actually tried Robert Bingham's way to do that. He actually wrote it down on his website and his YouTube channel and how to do that. And I tried it. The first night I tried it, and I had witnesses with me, we actually saw 3 different UFOs in the sky.
Wow.
Yeah, and the third one that we saw was fantastic. It was zigzagging all over the place, doing circles, and it was just absolutely phenomenal. I mean, the stupid part about it is I try it today, doesn't work.
Was it like you summoning the UFO, or was it like just something to remove, I guess, or to give you the vision to see what was already there?
That I don't know. That I really don't know. And I think when it comes to the experiences, Dark, I really think that if they want you to see them, they will allow you. They may not show unless you ask, but I think there is some sort of cosmic connection that goes along with that.
No, I wouldn't put it past it. I mean, I'm pretty sure there's some type of connection. I just thought that was the most interesting thing I had seen. I mean, this guy's literally praying in an open field, and minutes later, 3 UFOs, not 1. I think it was 3 that showed up. And I'm like, wow. I mean, that's amazing. Speaking of UFOs, when you start to rate the stories that come in, like by the number of stories about per topic, UFO encounters are really, really towards the bottom of the list because people don't really talk to me about those a lot. But the people who do share those stories with me, the few who do, man, their stories are wild and crazy and insane. There's a group of, there's a couple, they wrote a book called Abducted, and long before they even wrote that book, we were talking like 3 years ago, right? And this is before the book was even a thought. And they were sharing things with me back then that were just insane about floating cities and being abducted behind the car, the wheel driver's wheel of a car. And it was just crazy stuff that eventually they came out with their book, but it was just some insane encounters.
Is that Chad and Alta Dillard?
That's Chad and Alta Dillard, yep.
Good people. We've had them on the show here. Good people. Their stories were so amazing, and I think they could have went about 4 or 5 hours because they were so detailed with their interactions with everything. It would have been pretty incredible. Pretty incredible.
Yeah, and they have some stories that I'm pretty sure, because those were some of the ones that they said, don't tell anybody this, but they had some stuff that happened here in New Orleans that was just insane, that dealt with UFOs that was just insane. But when we start talking about that topic, it's amazing how it plays out as far as the levels of interest in topics. Like, there's a lot of interest in Dogman. The interest in Dogman is just ridiculous, right? Then there's Bigfoot. And then it kind of gets to where it fluctuates. Sometimes it's people wanting to talk about black-eyed kids. Other times it's people talking about demons. Other times it's people talking about crazy stuff. Like I started getting a call today about something called Momo. Have you heard of Momo?
No. What the hell is Momo?
So Momo is some kind of person who it's a person, an individual who has a WhatsApp account. And so basically I guess these are younger kids, because I have some kids who play Fortnite that call me with their little creepy stories that happened in our house, and they were the ones telling me about Momo. So basically, they found a phone number on Facebook or Twitter. I think it was Facebook they found the number on. And then when they started searching the number, it led back to a WhatsApp account, which had this really, really freaky, like, sculpture of a person, huge eyes and thin hair and a long, wide mouth where, exaggerated smile, the whole, just creepy, like a troll looking thing. But these kids were telling me that they had been trying to contact that number through the WhatsApp, and one of them finally got through and then started getting pictures sent to his phone, which were like dead bodies and people's heads split open and eyeballs popped out, like crazy stuff. And I'm like, dude, why? Where's your mom? You know what I'm saying? I'm like, where's your mom? I want to talk to her. Why you want to talk to my mom? Because you don't need to even be doing foolishness like this. What's wrong with you? But so it did. The whole point of me telling you that story is just to make the point that it kind of fluctuates. The interest fluctuates into topics like, Dogman is number one, Bigfoot's number two. Then after that, it's just it's a scramble. It's up, it's down, it's this one, it's that one. One day it's demons, next day it's Black Eyed Kids, next day it's Momo, which I've never heard of. So the interest fluctuates is the word I'm looking for. In those topics, once you get outside of Dogman and Bigfoot, it's really a competition as far as people sharing encounters with me.
Do you think there is still a way out there, or a bottleneck out there of stories that are just so incredible that they should be in the public, but maybe the person is too scared or too jittery or doesn't want the attention? Do you think that story is out there with the real, true evidence?
Yeah, I mean, I broke that bottleneck a long time ago with some stories. It's just that they're so fantastic, nobody believes they're true. And there's some stories on my website about a group of guys who go out and hunt cryptids. And those are true stories, but nobody believes they're true. They're like, oh, that can't be possible. I'm in the middle of doing a story called Inhumans about people who are genetically modifying different animals and humans in labs in China. And this was happening 2 years ago. But nobody believes me. And it's fine, because it's better for me to be protecting people. Like, oh, this has got to be fiction. But no, the truth, putting your truth out there has to be done in a unique way. It needs to be done through a form of entertainment. And that's the best way to go about doing it. So, yeah, I broke that bottleneck a long, long time ago. It's just that when people hear the production put behind it, it's like, oh, my God, this can't be real, So, and since I never really get questioned about those stories, I never really go into them,
When you put a story out, are you afraid to put out a first-time event story like that one, where you're breaking it, or do you
scared out of my mind?
Why is that?
Because there's certain things, there's certain stories, like, for example, the Inhuman story. There's certain truths in that story that are verifiable. And although the average person listening may not believe it to be true, there are people who know it to be true. And that's the difference. It's that the difference between the people who are like, oh, yeah, it's a good story. And, I really enjoyed it. The sound effects were nice. And it was, he did a good job narrating. And then there's the people who are sitting there saying, look, you need to shut up because you're going too far with what you're saying. And so that's when you cross over, in my opinion, where you cross the bridge from entertainment and get into like real life situations. And those stories, my very, very long stories, the ones that are albums, they really do cross that bridge. Like, it's like walking over the bridge and making camp and cooking dinner and chopping down trees and building a hut is how far those stories go. It's just the way that it's presented. Sometimes people don't accept it. They're just like, oh, this sounds way too good. He made this up.
Do you often, or have you often, or if at all, been approached by any government officials saying, hey, we don't want you running that. We don't think that that's appropriate, or something along those lines? Because I got to admit, I have never had that. In 3.5 years of doing this show, I've heard the stories. I've heard the phone calls or the knocks on the door or whatever. I've never had that.
Well, mine hasn't come it doesn't really come in the way that you would think it comes. It doesn't come in the manner of, oh, somebody knocking on your door like, hey, you're talking too much. Don't say that. The way it's come for me is a year and a half ago. It's a year and a half ago, a little bit more than a year and a half ago. It started off with a gentleman just sitting outside of my house in a car. I mean, an unmarked car just sitting outside of my house. And it was like there for a whole week. Like he would sit out there in the morning. I would leave to go to work, come back. He wouldn't be there. By the time I got inside the house and kind of cleaned up and moved around a little bit back, I would look back outside the window and he's back. So that was the very first encounter I had with someone who I think was sending me a message. I ended up walking up on the car and questioning him. And that person... what I would say is, there's people who, when you look in their eyes, you know what they're made of. He was cut from another cloth, but at the same time, he was respectful. And that's when I was really, really dropping a lot of truth about Dog Man. And so that was 2 years ago. I was really, really going in on Dog Man. And he was just like, man, it's a good idea to tell the stories. And, people out here like your stories, but some of the things you're saying, and some of the locations you're giving, particularly the locations, man, that's really dangerous for people. People shouldn't be going to those locations. And I got the drift, and my response was, hey, man, if you ever need to talk to me, knock on the door. Don't sit outside of my house in a car and scare my neighbors and scare my children. If you ever want to talk, knock on the door, right? After that, it morphed into people contacting me with stories that I thought weren't true initially. And as I started to talk to them more and more and more and question them and kind of ask them for specific things to prove the story, then it got to the point where it is now, where it's kind of like, we need you to put this out, but don't go any further than this. If you get outside of this frame of the story, then it could be dangerous. So that's kind of how it is for me now when it comes to certain content. It's framed really, really well. And if you listen to the album, you even hear the framing in the album where it's like, oh, he could have told us more about that, but I stopped right there, because at the end of the day, I want it to remain entertainment. I don't think, you should be ducking and dodging over a story,
Why do you think Dog Man is so popular when it comes to these types of stories? Do you think it's because it just seems so unreal, like a creature right out of, some sort of horror fiction movie that apparently is alive and well? What is the romanticism with people wanting to hear about Dog Man?
You want the raw, honest truth, or you just want I got like a level 1 answer and a level 2 answer. Let me give you the level 1 answer, and we'll go to the level 2 answer. So part of it is, I think it's man's and human beings' fascination with werewolves and, things that kind of go bump in the night. And this is like the ultimate scary, predator to be afraid of. A lot of people want to be scared and be made afraid, right? And there's nothing more scary than an upright walking wolf. That will track you miles and miles and miles and will eat you alive. So a lot of people just want to be scared. The second thing is from a monetization standpoint, and this is huge. It's a topic that, because it's popular, it makes money. And since it makes money, there's a lot of embellishments that go along with it because people can't tell the same encounter over and over and over again. Although the majority of the Dog Man encounters are pretty much consistent, they see a Dog Man, it pretty much tries to frighten them or intimidate them, and if they back down, it goes away, right? that's the average dogman encounter. And if you're looking at kind of a Gaussian curve or a bell curve, that's pretty much at the top of the bell curve. Is I saw it, it scared me, I ran, it left me alone, right? But on the extreme far right of the bell curve, you have, stories and encounters where they physically get angry and try and break in someone's house. And then on the far left end of the bell curve, it's just straight up BS that people are making up. That's the second point. And I guess the third and final point that I could make on that would be there seems to be some extreme cult-like behavior centered around Dogman. And I've never really been able to quite put my finger on why it's that way. But if you take a close look at it, there's so many people, it crosses the line. Like, for example, Bigfoot, right? People read books on Bigfoot. They like to listen to Bigfoot stories, but they don't get so fanatic about Bigfoot as they do with Dogman. And I think, so to a certain extent, it's like there are people who almost worship Dogman because, they got to hear the next Dogman story. They got to go look on Facebook and be a part of the Dogman group and read everything they can about Dogman, I tell you, if we were to write like a Dogman scripture book, if we wanted to just be like, I don't want to curse, but if we wanted to just really just go in, we would write like the Lost Dogman Chronicles or the Lost Book of Dogman, and people would buy it because they're just that fanatical about it. And that's been my experience.
Is it because, Bigfoot has such the more popular name that, there's this entire fringe crowd that kind of wants to delve into something different and be a part of something different? Could that be part of Dogman's popularity? Or maybe, over the last 20, 25 years, we've seen a real shift towards people liking the more badass things out there, and Bigfoot really isn't as scary as Dogman is reported to be. So a lot of people will automatically say, well, if I got to make my choice, I'm going with Dogman. I still think, you put them both in a steel cage. I think Bigfoot's winning with a camel clutch submission, but that's just me, but I can see where people are more romanticized with Dogman because of its vicious apparent nature.
Yeah, that's a tough call because, when you start talking about Dogman and Bigfoot and comparing them, they're polar opposites in behavior. So the average Bigfoot encounter is, someone runs into Bigfoot and Bigfoot hides, right? And it conceals itself and it kind of throws rocks and does little things to let you know that it's in the area. With the exception of you just like going bananas on Bigfoot, it'll leave you alone, right? Dogman is the exact opposite. I mean, he's just, I call him the crypto terrorist because he terrorizes the hell out of people. But to specifically answer your question as to, do I think that there's more and more people wanting to kind of follow in the topic because they want something different than just Bigfoot. I don't know if that's what's going on because typically you have the person who's listening to like Dogman stories. They are also into Bigfoot. I just think that, again, it goes back to the monetization of the topic. Like even on YouTube, if you were to do a YouTube search and search for cryptid animals, Bigfoot is going to dominate the search, which means that Bigfoot dominated the monetization, right? So if there's a Bigfoot channel out there or someone who talks about Bigfoot or a Bigfoot author out there, and they've been around for, 10, 15 years, there's no real market room or market space for there to be a new influx or a new author or a new YouTuber or somebody with new information that can be monetized because that topic is so, well written about and well spoken about, right? So in comes this other cryptid Dogman that leaves space. There's open space for people to create a seat at the table for them when it comes to Dogman. And that's what I've witnessed people do. I mean, even on YouTube, I've witnessed people who had channels for years. and only got maybe 200 subscribers, and nothing was going on with that channel. Then they started talking about Bigfoot, and next thing you know, Dogman, and next thing you know, they have thousands of subscribers. So I really think the monetization plays a huge role in the spread of Dogman. I really, really think it does. And also, as long as there's room at the table for other people to kind of not assert themselves, but establish themselves as authorities. Anytime there's something new, there's room for someone to be an authority. You only can get paid and make money off a topic if you're considered an authority, right? So there have been a number of authorities on Bigfoot. You can name the people who are claiming to be authorities on Dogman by, on one hand.
Do you think Dogman is a real creature, or do you think that it is, much like Slender Man, a figment of the imagination that has kind of spawned into something supernatural?
No, it's not a figment of anybody's imagination. That you mean like a Topa type creature where,
yes.
No. It's definitely not that. I've spoken to enough people who have had encounters with Dogman to know and understand that there is definitely a flesh and blood creature out there that people describe as Dogman. Hands down, I've spoken to enough people who say, look, this is definitely real. And they have the supporting evidence, and they have the verbal and actually some other evidence that supports it. Whether it be footprints and claw marks on the side of their car, on their house, there's evidence that supports it. But also, there's another classification of encounter that happens with Dogman. So, and these are what I like to call indoor Dogman encounters, right? Because the typical Dogman encounter is happening outdoors. But the indoor closed bedroom Dogman encounters that are happening where someone's in the bed at night, they're locked within their house, and then they're locked inside of their bedroom, or they're inside their bedroom with the door closed, and they see what other people describe as Dogman. I'm leaning that those kind of encounters are purely demonic, and meaning that there's some kind of demonic entity making itself look that way to provoke fear or whatever it is that it wants.
So do you think that Dogman then is some sort of interdimensional or shape-shifting creature, much like, what we hear of a skinwalker? Or do you think then it's maybe related to the demonic hounds from hell?
Yeah, I think it's related to something demonic, not like a skinwalker, which is a person who's been through rituals and pretty much eating their own, I'm not supposed to talk about that, but not a skinwalker is a person who's been through a ritual and has used ritual magic to, become strong enough to transform themselves. I'm talking about, for the most part, a flesh and blood creature that is showing up in the woods around people, and then some form of a spiritual entity. I say demonic entity. So if the simple fact that we're talking about demons, you definitely can say that they're interdimensional. So it does fit the description of what you're saying by interdimensional, but I'm specifically talking about some type of demonic entity that that manifests itself in a form that someone can perceive as Dogman. And if you've ever read anything about demons, like, for example, when people summon demons, they draw these circles and lines and stuff on the ground and put a black mirror in the middle of that circle, and then they request for that creature or that demon to show itself to them in a form that they can comprehend, right? Whether it be a childlike form or whatever it is, they request that entity shows itself in a form or a shape that they can readily accept, which lets us know that those entities can switch their form and their shape.
I have heard a number of stories about Dogman where people have actually said they have shot the creature multiple times with a high caliber rifle or handgun, and this thing just will not even flinch or go down. When I hear a story like that, okay, I think, of the movie Silver Bullet. I think of, werewolf type movies out there. I don't think of a real living, breathing creature being able to take a slug from an AR-15 or a 45 caliber handgun and, walking and getting more pissed off that it's been attacked on its own. I just don't see that happening in the real world. This is where these types of supernatural stories absolutely baffle me.
But what about it baffles you? Help me out with that. What's baffling about it?
Well, I think if you put 7 or 8 bullets in any type of creature from a high-powered gun, that it is going to go down. And, if I try to say, okay, let's take a lion or a tiger, same size, although running on all fours, if you put, 8 or 9 bullets into from the head on down to the chest where the heart is in a tiger, the likelihood of it still coming at you is slim to none. It's going to drop. And these creatures just don't seem to be dropping.
Okay, I got where you're coming from. Two things. So we're talking about the not physical manifestation, but we're talking about actually physical dog man out in the woods. Somebody sitting in their tree stand. They see this creature that's walking upright, and it looks like a wolf. Why you would shoot that, I don't know, but for some reason they've been forced to shoot it. There's a couple of things that I've learned about those encounters. And this is, when I say this is not to say that the person who shared that encounter with you is lying in any way, shape, or form. But what I've discovered is that over time, talking to people who've had those type of traumatic encounters, that they don't always get the information correct. So they may say, I shot it with, 9 rounds. I took 9 shots and it really was 3 shots. You know what I'm saying? Small little things, the inconsistencies that throw those encounters off and kind of mess them up. Now, the second thing would be that I'll pose this hypothetically. We know that gene modifying and cloning and gene editing has been around for 40, 50 years. The technology that people are able to use, companies and corporations are able to use in the U.S., we tend to find out about it extremely late. So I would say that there's a strong possibility that someone genetically modified a creature that can withstand those kind of rounds, and that kind of fire, because it makes for the perfect weapon.
I'm just typing in the chat room here. Dogman, genetically modified. What do you think? I'm trying to see what our chatters think about that. That sounds almost like a Montauk type project, that this would be some sort of government experiment gone wrong, rogue, and wild.
Yeah, and there's a possibility that is exactly what it is. But I mean, think about it. What would be a better weapon system than having something that you can just drop in the middle of nowhere on your enemies and let it run loose, and it'll kill all your enemies, and it's bulletproof. So, I mean, it would make an awesome weapon system is what I'm saying.
So do you think there is a chance that a creature like Dogman is maybe an escapee or multiple escapees from some sort of government compound?
I've never contemplated that. I've never once thought about that. And I mean, it would make sense. They have to, the one thing that's baffled me about the whole physical in the woods encounter is, how in the hell did they get there? And if they were genetically modified, how come they haven't been picked up and put back where they belong? So that's one of the things that I've been pondering for a while now.
Do you think they are actively breeding? Because, I mean, we do see, reports, especially coming out of the West now, where, 10, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, it was really in that Wisconsin, Ohio, Michigan type area.
That one, I don't know. I really don't know, because when we start talking about the dog man altogether, it's more so all of the encounters that I'm hearing are southeast United States. I mean, I'm really hearing a lot of encounters from here. And I don't say that because I'm geographically located in this area, because I do receive phone calls from everywhere all around the world. But the hot spots for Dogman really are the southeast, Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Georgia, Tennessee, and areas along the Appalachian Trails. Those are really the hot spots for these creatures, and the encounters that I'm getting. So when we start talking about geographical locations, it gets a little fishy when you start talking about stuff like that, because I'm getting a lot of information from those areas. Take, for example, Linda Godfrey. Linda's books were written based on things that were happening in the area around her. So I think the bigger question is, do they migrate? Do they move around? Where are they going? Where are they coming from? You know what I'm saying?
And I think that makes a lot of sense. I think they are expanding their turf almost like a street gang would. I mean, I hate to use that example, but I mean, when you have so much open space and open forest and bayous, ravines, and mountain ways, there's a lot of territory. And let's face it, there is a lot of food sources out there. If you think of deer, if you think of elk, caribou, moose, rabbits, there's a lot of food out there for some big animal like this. Dark, I'm going to get you to hold on. We are going to take our first break of the night. Dark Waters is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio, one of the best storytellers when it comes to everything weird and strange. His website, iamdarkwaters.com. I think it's one you want to subscribe to, so go check it out. You're listening to Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott. We'll be back with more after this.
Find your escape where time has no limits. It's about living today and cherishing the heritage of yesterday. A spirit of adventure for what is new, with the nostalgia of the past. Your timepiece is a reflection of who you are. Life surrounded by beauty from the world around us to the soul within. EscapeWatches.com. There is no time like the present to enjoy your escape. Use promo code SMF2017 for your 20% discount today.
The freedom to post what you want, when you want. That's the social media freedom you need. Social Media Freedom is the free app in your app store. No need to worry about going to jail or being shadow banned any longer. It's the freedom to say what you feel. The freedom to know Big Brother isn't watching. It's the way social media is supposed to be. Social Media Freedom. It's time to set yourself free. Download from your app store today.
Coming September 28th to the 30th, it's our first annual Caribou Paracon, put on by Spaced Out Radio and the Canadian Society of Questers. 3 days of paranormal, supernatural, and spiritual knowledge in the beautiful 108 Mile Ranch, British Columbia. Tickets are $150 Canadian for the event, being held at the Spruce Hills Resort and Spa. Come watch our featured speaker, Grant Cameron, along with Lorian Fenton, David Weatherly, Ross Allison, and more. The Caribou Paracon, celebrating everything paranormal.
Hi there, I'm Butch Witkowski, lead investigator with U4COP. On the final Monday of every month, you can listen to me and host Dave Scott on Spaced Out Radio's Strange Days. We're going to get to the heart of the matter when it comes to what's happening out there. People are seeing and experiencing things from ET contact to Bigfoot, and I want to hear about it. Your experiences are what we investigators need to help solve these unknown mysteries. So tune in at spacedoutradio.com to the final Monday of every month from Butch Witkowski's Strange Days.
Hi there, this is Tessa Nicole Thomas, and I'm going to take you for a ride every Sunday night on Spaced Out Sundays. I'm going to set up your week with some strange tales from across North America, from psychic readings, Sasquatch, UFOs, to the most haunted locations. Come join me at spacedoutradio.com starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, and let's get weird together. I'd love for you to join me. Spaced Out Sundays at spacedoutradio.com.
There's news, and there's the encounter. This is Spaced Out Radio News Director Everett Thiemer inviting you to check out The Encounter. Our half-hour news segment every Monday through Friday night is different compared to what you're used to. Our goal is to bring you the weird, strange, and interesting stories the mainstream tends to leave out, and stories that will make you scratch your head in disbelief. The Encounter can also be found at spacedoutradio.com and on our Facebook page, SOR The Encounter. Come give us a read.
We're bringing scientific thought to the paranormal. Hi there, this is Spaced Out Radio scientist Chris Cogswell. Join me, Chris Zuger, and Dave Scott the second Wednesday of every month, where we break down the who from the woo when it comes to everything paranormal. We'll investigate and try to bring sensible answers to those straight and sometimes outlandish questions people have. Hey, not everything has an answer, but we'll do our best. Listen in to Reality Paranormal only on Spaced Out Radio.
Heading to Vancouver and looking for some great nightlife? The Moose Vancouver is the place to be. Catch a game on one of the big screens or just come rock out to your favorite 80s and 90s hair bands. Great food starting at $6.95. The Moose Vancouver is open until 2 a.m. nightly. It's easy to find near the corner of Nelson and Granville. The Moose Vancouver is the official rocking bar of Spaced Out Radio.
Are you interested in advertising on Spaced Out Radio? Head to our website at spacedoutradio.com and click on our advertising tab. There, you will find an assortment of ways you can get your product out there with us, from radio commercials to banners and social media. Have a product you like our hosts to endorse? We can do that too. Visit spacedoutradio.com for more details.
Do you want to know what's really going on in your world? Do you have questions about who you can trust in the mainstream media? Then look no further than the Rebel Planet. Come get the straight answers right here at spacedoutradio.com. Join me, Jamie Sexton, creator of Rebel Planet News, as I fill you in on the stories behind the stories. All you truth seekers, be sure to tune in to Rebel Planet on spacedoutradio.com the third Thursday of every month.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7, with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
Hey, this is Canadian Paranormal Investigator Mike Moore. The third Wednesday of every month, I'll be teaming up with Dave Scott to bring you Ghosts of the Great White North. Each month, we will bring on guests from across Canada to discuss their ghostly encounters. Canada is a paranormal hotbed with stories you've never heard, so we're going to bring them to you. So get comfy on your Chesterfield, grab a donut, and join us, eh?
The views and opinions expressed by tonight's guest and topic of discussion do not necessarily represent the official policy or position of Spaced Out Radio, Spaced Out Weekend, Spaced Out Radio Limited, its hosts, syndicated carriers, or anyone associated with this broadcast. Would you like to connect with us? Head to spacedoutradio.com for all your latest show info. And hit us up on Twitter using the hashtag SpacedOutRadio. Now, back to Dave Scott and SOR.
Welcome back to the second hour of Spaced Out Radio. Tonight, I am your host, Dave Scott. Good to hear from you tonight. Tomorrow night on the program, reality television ghost hunter Dustin Pari is going to join us. We get going at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern Time at spacedoutradio.com. We welcome back everyone listening in on the SOR Radio Network and Deep Talk Radio. Don't forget, you can check out our archives for free. Go to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me a favor and hit that subscribe button. Bill Cardwell has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Alexa Farmick. Alexa Farmick is your password. Make sure you use it wisely, space travelers, as Bill sets the password each and every night right here on the mighty SOR. Now, if you want to check out our website, spacedoutradio.com. We got a plethora of features for you. You can rock out to some Bumblefoot, shop at our Spaced Out Radio store, read up on the encounter online, and so much more. So it seems like we may have a power outage right now down in Louisiana, where Dark Waters is, because we got disconnected during the break. I am trying very, very diligently to get a hold of him right now. And right before the break, we were talking about Dogman. We were talking about the encounters that people were having and whether or not this creature is true. So what we're going to do is we're going to open up the phone lines to you while we wait to try and reconnect with Dark Waters. 1-702-302-4556 is your phone number to call. 1-702-302-4556. So give us a call. Whatever creature you want to talk about, I want to hear your experience. Have you seen Bigfoot? Have you seen Dogman? What would you do if you had an encounter with one of these creatures? Now, I've seen Bigfoot, and it was a little bit of elation along with a little bit of fear at the same time. Many of you have heard my experience. There was 2 of them, and they were within 100 feet of me and my friend. This was back in Mission, British Columbia, where there are numerous Bigfoot areas and Bigfoot sightings, because we live real close to the Harrison Hot Springs area, which is very well known for Bigfoot sightings. And the size of this creature is massive. Absolutely massive. So I want to know about your experiences while we try and get a hold of Dark Waters. Give me a call. 1-702-302-4556. That is the number to call. If you want to call in, tell us about your experience. It doesn't even have to be one of those. Maybe it's a ghostly experience. Maybe it is a UFO. Hey, I got an interesting story to tell you. Last night, after the show, I was on the phone with Everett Thiemer from The Encounter, and we were talking like we normally do after the show, and it was a moonless night, and so we're up here talking away just about radio, the show, because we try and break down everything after every broadcast. That's what normally happens. And I looked up in the sky, and I first saw a satellite that was zooming on by. No big deal, right? And it zoomed into this one area. And you know that constellation Cassiopeia? It is shaped like a W on its side. Well, as this satellite was kind of going into Cassiopeia, I saw this flickering. Not a twinkling like you would see from a normal star, but just this flickering. It would go on and then off. On, then off. And I said to Everett, I said, hey, there's one of them flashing ones. Wonder if it's a satellite or not. And it just kept on turning its light on and off. On, off. Then a break. You're going to turn it back on? Boom, on. It was getting kind of weird. And then I noticed that it wasn't moving. Completely stationary. There were no clouds in the area blocking it. So I said, Everett, this is kind of weird. I've never seen this before. Normally when you get that strobing action, all right, that intermittent, what's the word I'm looking for? Intermittent strobing action. It's usually from maybe a satellite rotating and glaring off the sun, Or maybe it is something that is a UFO. Who really knows? But this was stationary. And I watched it for about 20 minutes, 15, 20 minutes. And it just continued on. And I went from my carport, which kind of looked up. I went up to my patio because I can get a better view, or what I feel is a better view from up there. And it continued. And then all of a sudden, right above me, this really orange orb goes streaking across the sky from west to east, right in towards Cassiopeia. And after it passed over my house, it switched to red, and then poof, disappeared. And then a couple of minutes later, the flashing from where this UFO was, or whatever it was, star, whatever, it stopped and disappeared. Couldn't see it any longer. So that's my weirdness for yesterday. That is my weirdness. I don't know whether or not it was a UFO, or maybe it was a star and my eyes were playing tricks on me, even playing tricks on my glasses. I really don't know. All I know is that was something that I hadn't seen before. And I've seen a lot of the strobing. And, after I had the landing incident a few years ago where it strobed on the ground to me, I guess in my tinfoil hat phase, I actually really like to think that maybe it is a UFO. I have no proof, but it could very well be. Could very well be. I am really not too sure. Very not too sure whatsoever. It's kind of tripping me out. So I'm not too sure. Call in and tell me about your stories. If you're in one of the chat rooms, put your questions in capital letters. I will bring them up. If you don't want to call on in, 1-702-302-4556. I would greatly appreciate you giving us a call in tonight, seeing how things are going. Do you believe in Dogman? Do you believe in Bigfoot? Do you believe that maybe there are UFOs sitting above where we are, trying to figure out if we're able to see them or not? Dogman, I'm still a little bit on the fence with. I want to believe that one. I really do want to believe that one. And I think with the amount of experiences people have had with the Dogman, I think there is something to that. I really don't know if we're going to be able to move forward with it, much the same as Bigfoot. But to me, Bigfoot is much more of an opportunity to be real than Dogman. I mean, look at the amount of encounters people are having. And as we said on the show just a couple of nights ago with David Spinks, there would have to be a lot of people in on this Bigfoot hoax if it was a hoax. A lot of people in on it for the amount of sightings that happen each and every year. Seriously, there would have to be a lot of people in on that. If it was some government conspiracy, which I highly doubt, but there would have to be people in on it. Because the amount of area that these Bigfoot are covering is right around North America. Let's not even tackle the world. But they are seen in almost every province and state in North America. And when you take that and you look at it, it makes you think, wow, man, there is something real here. And everybody is pretty much seeing the same thing, a big, hairy, bipedal creature that seems to have an attitude, that seems to have a place for it to forage, a place for it to hide. Yet with Dogman, nobody really knows what seems to spark those sightings. Bigfoot has been seen in so many places that it's easy to look at it and say, okay, we got something going on here. But with Dogman, the sightings are so sporadic that it's hard to believe that that creature is hiding out there too. What do you think? Is it a government experiment gone wrong? Or maybe a bunch of these things escaped and then they had the breeding capabilities. Sounds very sci-fi, I know. Canadian Joe on Twitter at #SpacedOutRadio. How do you differentiate a male dogman from a female dogman? Do females have breasts like in the Bigfoot film of Patterson-Gimlin's? I don't know. Do they have teats like a real dog? Or because they're, a female dog has 6 to 8 teats? Does it follow that line? Or does it not? And is it just something that, has a pair? I really don't know. Dogman is so elusive that it is very difficult to try and figure out whether or not there is actually any type of breeding capabilities. I mean, you don't hear of anybody talking about the teats. You don't hear of anybody talking about, any type of penis or anything along those lines. So if they are real, how the hell are they breeding? If the creature is real. Or maybe it's like a skinwalker, man. Maybe it's like a skinwalker where they are human. That's an eerie thought. It's a completely eerie thought. It would make sense on how they breed, though. Because you kind of have to buy into that club, if you know what I'm saying. Kind of have to give everything up. But nonetheless, it is absolutely kind of eerie to try and figure out what is going on with Dogman. All I know is that's probably the one creature I really do not want to run into. I really do not want to run into that. Bigfoot, I'd love to see Bigfoot again. For some reason, Bigfoot doesn't scare me, even though it could probably rip me apart. Just, by flicking me in the forehead, take my head off. But nonetheless, Dogman, that just seems real badass. Very, very badass. And how would they breed? That's a good question. Bigfoot makes sense because of the Patterson-Gimlin film and the breasts on that creature. You could tell there's probably something to that. Probably the way humans get at it. Minus the Barry White in the fireplace. Well, they probably have the fireplace going, but they don't have the Barry White. Let's get to Ron's question here. Dave, how do you feel about lake monsters? Have you looked for them? Oh, goodness. Lake monsters. I think Ogopogo in Okanagan Lake, the famous one, I have a feeling that's a sturgeon. I don't know why, I just do. Okanagan Lake, for those who don't know, is in Kelowna, British Columbia, runs down to Penticton, British Columbia. It's about, I'm going to say 50 miles long, 60 miles long. It's a big, big lake. And at the center of that lake, it bleeds out into the Columbia River, which heads south through Washington State and then kind of follows the Washington-Oregon border and comes out in Portland into the ocean, drains into the ocean. And there's a lot of sturgeon in there, white sturgeon. And those fish can swim up. And from what I have heard, that they are breeding in Okanagan Lake, laying their eggs and all that kind of stuff. And I think that point blank, I really do believe that the Ogopogo is a sturgeon. I'd love to be proven wrong. I would love to. You know, maybe the oarfish of the ocean that gets like 18, 20 feet in length, maybe that has somehow adapted to fresh water and can make it up. And that's what people are seeing. I really don't think so. But it would be cool to think. But there are a lot of sea monsters around. I mean, you have the Cadborosaurus on the west coast that is supposed to, you know, swim between British Columbia and the northern tip of California. You have Champ. There's been all sorts of lake monsters that have been seen in the Great Lakes, whether they're mythical or whether they're not. Problem is trying to find someone who focuses on those creatures. I mean, it's tough because the sightings are so rare, even rarer than Dogman or Bigfoot. So it is difficult right now to try and find someone who is, you know, specifically made their entire life's goal researching these cryptid sea monsters. I mean, then it opens up a whole different world. The Kraken, does it exist? Megalodon? I really don't know. I really don't know. If you want to call in, 1-702-302-4556 is the phone number to call on in. And if you want to hang out with me, call in early. Hell, Everett, if you want to call on in, you're scheduled for an hour from now. But if you want to call on in, hit me up on Skype. You know how to do that. We'll take your phone calls, your questions. Little Ronnie Moniak has another question here. Why does Dogman not run in packs like all canines? Good question. That's what makes me think there's something different about this creature. One of the ones. One of the ones. When you think about it, these Dogman, how many reports have we heard where there's 2 or 3 or 4 at the same time? You never hear about it. It always seems to be one individual creature. It's not like Bigfoot, where a lot of people have had, you know, a sighting of more than one. And there's a lot of people out there who think they run in packs of 3. My experience was 2 of them. Mrs. SOR's, when she had hers, it was only 1. So, I mean, there is so much more to it than what we think. And I think there, you know, whether this Dogman is a shapeshifter, whether it's interdimensional, whether it is a natural born creature, I really don't know. Everett Thiemer from the Encounters hopping in early. How you doing, Big Ev? I am good. I'm a little worried about Dark. I mean, he forewarned us right off the bat. I've tried him like about 11 times here, man. Must be a big storm. He did warn me about it, though. That is very true. Very true. What do you think? What do you think Dogman is? I know you're no expert. I'm no expert. But in just hearing what, you know, Dark was saying and some of the questions that people have, what do you think it is?
kind of thing, but I can see it being an entirely unknown cryptid of some sort too.
So just so you know, I forgot to turn your mic on. My bad. My bad.
I'm not repeating that.
Well, I realize that. I'll tell you why. You know, and let me tell the audience here, when you have some of these situations happen where all of a sudden a guest drops and you can't get through to them, there's a little bit of, as much as you try and hold your sanity together, there is a little bit of panic that actually comes into play where you're trying to figure out, okay, is this on my end? Is this on yours? And you're trying to think of things to say. So sometimes you forget to hit a button. And that's exactly what happened there. I do apologize. That is completely my fault.
It's okay.
Well,
I don't even, in interest of full disclosure, this all happened so fast. I don't have pants on.
Wow. Like we needed that one.
I know.
Like we needed that one.
I have my Star Wars lounge pants on, but not regular pants.
I got shorts on. I got basketball shorts on right now.
You wearing those weird socks?
No, I don't got the socks on today.
Okay.
I would like to get some Dogman socks to match up with my 2 pairs of Bigfoot socks, though. That would be kind of cool.
You and your socks.
And I don't even have any Carl socks yet. But that's okay. One day, we'll get them. Gail says, go put your pants on.
All right, but it's going to take me about 10 minutes to get back to the house.
Oh, you're in the studio right now. Yeah. So anyways,
Yeah.
with Dogman, your area, you're very close to Wisconsin and that whole area with Linda Godfrey, as you stated. Has there ever been any reports or sightings of this creature in your neck of the woods? Like, say, within a 30, 40-mile radius?
Well, I live about 60 miles southwest of Chicago. I'm about 90 miles from the Wisconsin border. And my wife and mother-in-law actually saw one. Well, believe they saw one kind of in this rural wooded area where a couple of rivers connect. And, they came home late one night from shopping. And at the time, my wife knows I'm not wasn't a huge Dogman kind of person. And my mother-in-law wasn't really into any of the paranormal things. But they came home kind of panicked having seen this thing. And my mother-in-law, who's a pretty good artist, drew a picture. And it was frighteningly similar to some of the pictures that were floating around or going around about the Dogman seen in, primarily the Wisconsin area. So I know there have been sightings here because I know 2 people that saw them. And it seems almost as though maybe they're migrating a bit.
What did they see?
The best way I can describe it is think of almost something like a dog with a flattened face. Its hind legs were kind of longer than its front legs, and it appeared to be almost hairless or have very short hair. And when they saw it, they said it was originally crouched down, but as the car went around the curve, it kind of stood up and moved into the brush and went down under a bridge.
How close were they to it?
Oh, it was off the side of the road, probably 10, 15 feet. And they probably got maybe 4 or 5 car lengths from it before it finally went into the brush and down the hill.
Wow. So they saw it for more than 5 seconds.
Yeah, probably about 5-10 seconds.
How big did they say it was when it was standing?
In the description my mother-in-law gave, she said it was probably smaller than the average man, is what she kind of put it as.
Wonderful. Juvenile Dogman running around southern Illinois.
No, we're not Southern Illinois.
Or
we're
Western.
still Northern Illinois.
Northwestern.
Northeastern.
Northeastern. I got to get a map. I got to figure out this Illinois thing, man.
Even the people here in Illinois can't figure out Illinois.
I know I've flown over it a couple of times, but that's about it. That's about it.
That's
Renee says in the chat room, she goes, I think people want to make more out of Dogman than it really deserves, really. As the Native Americans have known for centuries, these are skinwalkers, a.k.a. shapeshifters. As a mobile society now, I am not surprised they are being seen beyond the normal reservations now. They do not breed, for God's sake, other than in human form. That would make sense. That would completely make sense.
You know, I don't know that I subscribe to that. I still have, if they exist, I guess that they are some form of unknown species or cryptid. I mean, but then again, I used to think that there was no possible way that Bigfoot could be interdimensional. And you've slowly turned me to being open to that idea.
Well, I'm that guy, right? I am totally that guy. Totally that
guy. Not sure if I'd brag to your friends about that, but yeah.
Well, I think it brings up a good point, though, is it does go a little bit further than what we all think. You know? It pushes us to the limit to try and see what we believe and what we don't. Because for so many of us out there, and rightfully so, we are trying our damnedest to try and put some sort of human scientific type answer on a lot of these creatures and myths. And to a lot of us, they are still myths. But when you look at it, it gets a little dangerous when you hear of the experiences people are having almost on a daily, regular basis.
I think you're right. I live in the middle of nowhere, kind of in the woods. And I think you and I have been on the phone when I've just wandered into the woods. I don't take a flashlight. I just start walking. I know my way around. I've, lived here. The property's been in my family for 40 years. So when I walk out there, I know what a deer grunting sounds like. And I know what branches falling sounds like. And as much as I am on the fence about a lot of these things, there have been times where I've heard sounds I can't explain. I'm not a big believer in the wood knocking thing, but I've heard people, I shouldn't say people, I've heard things distinctly knocking with something like a branch or a big piece of lumber of some sort on a trunk. Now, I can't dismiss that, and I also know that there's not going to be somebody out in the woods at 2 o'clock or 2:30 in the morning beating on a tree. So I have to look at it as, what is it?
Well, and that's a big thing, too. I mean, on private property where you are, somebody banging on a tree on your property, how do they know someone's not going to come out there with a shotgun and take care of business if they think there's an intruder on their property?
That and who's really got the time to walk out into the middle of nowhere and try and hoax something like that, hoping that at that exact moment there happens to be somebody standing within the vicinity to be able to hear it? I mean, that would be a giant waste of time.
I fully agree. And I've only heard of the one dogman encounter here in British Columbia, and that was northeast of me by about 8-9 hours in driving time. And that one was a little eerie because even when I brought it to the attention of Linda Godfrey, she hadn't heard of any that high north at this time. Like, we're talking right near the northeastern corner of the province. Now, you put British Columbia on the United States map, and you're eating up everywhere from Washington State right down to the California border and covering Nevada. British Columbia is a big province. Big province. And, it's bigger than a lot of the countries in the world, to be honest. But nonetheless, I mean, to only have one out of this province so far, there have been some starting to come into Alberta and down into Idaho and the Dakotas and so forth. You have to think this creature is starting to spread its wings a little bit. No pun intended, because it doesn't fly, but it does seem to be getting a lot more play.
Well, when you had Linda on, was it about a year ago? I believe she talked about how it appears that in some ways Dogman seems to be migrating from some different areas into new uncharted territory for it.
I know. I'm wondering if it's following the tracks of Bigfoot. That's what I'm very curious about.
You know, what I wonder about, and I was never a giant Dogman enthusiast or follower, even as a kid, is, and maybe I have to go back and research from the beginning a little bit, what are the various origins of Dogman? I mean, I grew up right there by what they call the Beast of Bray Road. And even as a teenager, as a kid, we really didn't think about it much. It was kind of after Linda came out with her material, her first articles in this one local paper that she wrote or that she worked for, that we kind of started investigating it. But we all sort of associate Dogman with kind of that area in southern Wisconsin. Are there other similar cryptids in other areas? Is it possible that, they're not so much migrating like we think they're migrating from Wisconsin out? Is it possible that there's some in Wisconsin and another type in, like Idaho going west? I'm not familiar with any of that, and I think I need to go back and look at this a little more.
It is interesting nonetheless. I mean, because with Bigfoot, you hear the First Nations stories, and you hear them about talking about this creature for centuries, if not longer. Like the stories have been passed down generation to generation, and some of the stories that have been recorded, have been pretty phenomenal. Yet with Dogman, it seems there is very few outside of the Skinwalker. This is why I'm thinking we really, really need to wonder whether or not this is some sort of Skinwalker-type creature. And that's the way I lean towards it. Now, people like Butch Witkowski or Jody Cook, even Dark Waters, would probably disagree with that.
If it's some sort of Skinwalker, though, what would its purpose be to have it, in my area, like I said, just off the road in the middle of nowhere? Why would it be here? There's no reason for it. I mean, assuming that it's some sort of, changeling or has the ability to change into other things, there's no reason for anything to be here. So somebody give me a reason why it would, if it were some sort of being like that, why it would choose here.
Not just that, but it opens up the topic to Char's question here, where she says, I wonder if Dogman and all these cryptids are interdimensional. That's hard to tell because there are so many areas in North America that really have not been investigated. Sure, we put maybe logging roads or mining roads through a lot of these remote places, but they're not walking 20 feet in, 200 feet in, 1,000 feet in to the forest. You know what I'm saying, Everett? There's a lot of uncharted territory.
There is. And even areas that at one time were charted become overgrown. I know in my forest, you walk 15, 20 feet off of the driveway, and while we have some paths cut in there to go for nice little walks and that kind of thing, if you get off of those and you're even 10, 15 feet in, it can be hard to tell exactly where you are, and you can't see but what's around you. So, a deer Dogman, Bigfoot could be 20 feet ahead of you and you wouldn't even know.
Yeah. I mean, and that's exactly it. Like, I'll give you an example. When Bazooka Joe and I yesterday were looking for the remains of Flight 21, on his GPS, he had it marked where the tail section is. And we went trouncing through the forest for a couple of kilometers. And we had to go, across this swamp and up this hill. Well, as we're coming to go up this hill, all right, there's a beehive that has been turned over. You could see the honey sticking out of it. And trust me being a chubby, hungry guy, I really wanted that honey. So Bazooka Joe walks by, sees it at the last minute, takes a bee sting right in the neck. Thank goodness he wasn't somebody who was allergic to it. But he starts running up the hill, and I'm right behind him, and, the bees are like, hey, where are you going? But, I mean, there was a creature there, whether it was a moose, a horse, a wild horse, a bear, or something that had turned over that stump to try and get that honey. And what I'm saying is we saw absolutely no signs of any wild animal, didn't hear a wild animal, nothing. So when you think that animals have that ability to disappear in the forest within minutes, because this was fresh and those bees were going haywire, so that whatever was there we missed it by a couple of minutes. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It wasn't 30 minutes previous. It wasn't even 15 minutes previous by the way the bees were swarming and looking to attack at anything. It was right within a couple of minutes. And this creature is gone, whatever it was. I think it was a bear. But nonetheless, these creatures have the ability to know their environment. It's hard to see a bear in the forest. It's hard to see a cougar or a lynx or a bobcat in the forest. It's even hard to see a wild horse. And we came up on 4 of them just yesterday, coming out of the forest.
That's kind of special.
It was. There were three adults and 1 colt. It was beautiful. We got about 50 feet from them. We were trying to call the big male over, and he wanted to come, but he didn't. And he wanted, and then he wouldn't. And then all of a sudden he, marked his territory and ran off with the rest of his harem there.
That had to be really cool to see.
It was. If you go on my Facebook page and look at my Flight 21 pictures from yesterday, I put the horse pictures right at the end of those. They're actually kind of cool. Actually really cool. Or if you look on Twitter from yesterday, I do have that photo on there. I know Jeff, Desert Clam, will bring it up. He has everything documented that I do. Jeff, you're on duty right now. You're absolutely on duty. But anyways, getting back to the conversation about where these creatures are, how do they hide? Every animal has that ability in the forest. That is their place to hide. That is their place to camouflage themselves. And our eyes are not trained, and our ears are not trained, and our noses are not trained to pick up what we need to pick up to actually see or hear them.
And if people think that animals can't hide from you in the forest, we have an area where we have raspberries growing. And we've been in there and we've walked past different trails that we have cut in there, and we'll be, grabbing some raspberries or whatever. And the deer will literally jump out of nowhere because we've spooked them while they're eating the raspberries. And we had no idea they were there. And we could have been, I've had them as close as just a few feet to me, jump out and take off, not even realizing they were there.
We've had that too. We came across, I mean, in our area of the forest, it's really weird because the farmers up there, they have these free-range cattle, all right? Free-range cattle. And they have a bunch of calves in there, and the mamas are all, in there as well, and there's usually a couple of bulls that are hanging around to protect everybody. But, I mean, you think about it. I mean, these cattle you very rarely come across that are free range. And lo and behold, we ran into about 20 of them yesterday. But nonetheless, not literally run into them, but, you know, it was kind of fun watching this bull calf try and decide whether or not it was going to play headbutt with Mark's truck and the bumper. That was kind of funny. It didn't. It thought better of itself. But nonetheless, I mean, we don't know what, getting back to the original point, we don't know what is lurking in the forests. We cannot prove it. But, I mean, when you think of all of these creatures that people are seeing and having the experiences to, Everett, how much stock do we put into that person's experience, whether or not they're saying they've seen Bigfoot or Dogman or some sort of bipedal flying creature like a Mothman type creature? I mean, there are so many creatures people are seeing. It's weird to think that a lot of these stories could be true.
It is, but I think that we have to put a fair amount of stock into the story until the person who is giving the description or the story or the report sort of calls their own credibility into question. I think there are a lot of people out there who see things, who misidentify them. I think there are a certain number of fake and fraudulent reports out there being made, whether it be with the intent of getting some attention or getting money. But I think that even if 75% or even if less than half of these reports are something genuine, that's huge. So to me, I kind of think that you have to take the report or take the experience at face value and then let the person's actions and their ideas and what they do to boost their credibility kind of verify or back up or support their experience.
I want to say thanks to Desert Clam, Jeff, for posting on Twitter at hashtag #SpacedOutRadio the horse pictures from yesterday, the wild horse pictures. You can actually see the little foal. I'm going to assume it's a little colt or whatever. He is white, being protected almost in a triangle by the three adults, which is kind of cool. And the big male horse. I'm sorry, I'm not up on my horse lingo. Hey, Gail has a question for you, Everett. She is asking, what kind of wild animals do you have in your area then?
I have absolutely nothing exciting. I have turkeys, peacocks, deer, some foxes, coyotes. That's about it. I have nothing cool, nothing to brag about.
What about snakes?
I think I still have one in my garage.
Oh, no. No, that's terrible.
Until I see him leave, he is in there.
Are they poisonous? Do you got the poisonous ones there?
We have some by the lake or in the water, marshy areas that are dangerous or poisonous, but 90% of the ones that we have aren't. I did have one in my garage. In fact, I think I was talking to you, wasn't I? When it slithered across the floor?
Yes.
And it happened so fast that I don't know if that is one of the poisonous ones we have. And, well, I haven't spent a lot of time in the garage lately.
I wouldn't. I think you should just burn it down, to be honest. Just burn it down. It's just much easier.
Well, everybody wants me to burn down the studio because there's some spiders in there. Got to burn down the house because I have a giant spider in the crawl space. I need to up my home insurance.
Oh, man. I hate the snakes. Snakes are they're just eerie. Snakes are eerie. Let's get to another question here from our audience, and let's see here. There's a couple of them here. I like Tripp's comment here. He says, other drunk rednecks looking for Bigfoot, beating trees to other drunk rednecks beating trees. That is hilarious. Thank you, Tripp. Appreciate that. Robin is asking, what do you think the difference is between changelings and skinwalkers? I would say pure evil. Absolute pure evil.
Everett, yeah, I think I'd agree with that. I don't know. I really don't know, because I've heard of some of the skinwalkers that, you know, to use the big words, some have been malevolent, some have been benevolent. I don't know.
I don't know. I think either way, when you get into that changeling thing or the skinwalker thing, it gets a little eerie. And I think it comes down to evil. Skinwalkers are not fun to be around, and I hope I never run into them. You know, Elizabeth Anglin, when she was with us, she used to tell an incredible story about the time where she and her friend were actually chased by a skinwalker. And, I mean, it was trying to attack the roof, and no matter how fast they pushed the car, that skinwalker was still on its tail and wouldn't leave. Scary, scary story. Freaky story. Don't like it. Don't like it a bit. Don't need to run into one of those.
Yeah, but those stories are so fun to hear.
It is true. Ron says, otherwise known as the Ukrainian watermelon, a moose will disappear instantly, and many times you can't even hear it crashing through the forest. That is very true. That is very true. There are a lot of moose up here. And I've seen 4 in the wild. 4? 5? Weird. Very weird. Claudia, who comes from First Nations descent, she's got a great story here. She goes, I swear to you, Bigfoot talked to me through my bedroom window for about 5 minutes. I didn't even know what Bigfoot sounded like until I heard a tape of one. It was so scary not knowing what it was. The sound will make you freeze. Then she goes on to state, we were having a ceremony on the res and heard about 5 Bigfoot howling behind us. I froze again. There is no sound like theirs. Once you hear it, you have no doubt that it is what it is. See, I've only heard the Bigfoot once. Only heard it once. And a couple of buddies of mine, my fishing buddies, we used to fish this little lake called, what the hell was it called? Oh, the name doesn't really matter. And one of the times I actually skipped out on that, on going fishing, right in the middle of the lake where they were belly boating. Now, if you took this lake, it's literally about the length of 2 football fields, okay? It's very, very small, but a good fun time to battle the trout. And they were actually near one of the, points where these 2 mountainsides, because the lake is at the top of a mountain, and it's kind of in this crest of the peaks. And where the peaks kind of join down at the bottom, they heard the roar come from right over top of them. Freaked them right out, man. Freaked them right out. I said, I ain't fishing there anymore. Not fishing there.
I can completely relate to Claudia's story. I think I've heard something very similar that really made me go, that's not normal.
Mm-hmm.
But I hate to use the word skeptic because it gets thrown around so much. The skeptic in me just doesn't know that it wasn't something else. And it was far off in the distance, and it was definitely loud. It didn't sound like a coyote. It didn't sound like a deer grunting. It didn't sound like anything that is around here. It didn't fit. But I don't know what it was. And I can't, as much as I would love to go, oh, that had to be Bigfoot, I can't make that leap yet.
I hear you. Friend of ours, Paul, who used to come fishing with us, Paul is like Rambo. Like one of these guys where it was all about guns, God, and killing things. And yeah, there are Canadians like that. And he decided one night that he was going to stay the night there. So here he is all alone at this lake on top of the mountain. There's nobody there, no vehicles around, okay? Like this lake is, it's on about, not a big mountain, maybe a 5,000-6,000 foot mountain. Not big, right? Well, I guess in certain areas it would be. So he stays the night. And here he is at his tent all alone. And I don't know if he had his gun or not, but I know he had a big knife. And way down the entrance to the lake, okay, which is probably 100 yards, he starts hearing metal scraping on metal. What the hell is metal scraping on metal doing around there, right? And so that's what wakes him up. And then he starts hearing these weird grunts and starts hearing more metal on metal. And so he gets freaked out. When we got there the next day to go fishing with him, he had had maybe an hour and a half sleep. And this is a guy, he's like, guys, I don't get scared of anything. I've had bears sniffing up at my tent door. That doesn't scare me. He goes, whatever it was out there, he goes, I don't know what the hell it was. But that scared him, kept him awake all night. He was so freaked out. I love those stories, man. I do.
Those are fun to hear.
Yeah. Those are the ones that you really hope that never happened to you, but it's always fun to hear when it happens to someone else.
For some reason, I really like the ones that when it involves like Bigfoot,
yeah,
peeking in the window and somebody's sitting there watching a fire in a fireplace, or they're sleeping and they just, for some odd reason, seem to wake up as this thing is looking in the window.
Yeah.
I love listening and hearing about those stories. And
Yes.
and somehow I kind of wonder if they're supposed to wake up to see those.
It's almost like it's fate. And on that note, I'm going to get you to hold on as we're going to go to our break, our final break of the night here on Spaced Out Radio. Everett Themer from The Encounter sitting on in as Dark Waters had to bail because of an electrical storm over his house. Lost all power, could not come back. We do apologize, but nonetheless, the show must go on. And you're listening to Spaced Out Radio. We'll be back with hour number 3 right after this.
Are you tired of being blocked, shadow banned, or placed in jail for simply posting your thoughts on social media? Social Media Freedom can take care of that for you. Social Media Freedom is the newest and one of the best free new apps that allows you the freedom to post what you want, when you want. It takes seconds to download from your app store. Come join the tribe at Social Media Freedom. It's time to set yourself free.
The first annual Caribou Paracon is happening September 28th to 30th in the 108 Mile Ranch, British Columbia. Brought to you by the Canadian Society of Questers and Spaced Out Radio. Come listen to our featured speaker, Grant Cameron, along with Elizabeth Anglin, Paisley Town, Mike Moran, Eric Cooper, and more. It's a 3-day supernatural adventure at the Spruce Hills Resort and Spa. Tickets for the weekend are $150 Canadian. The Caribou Paracon, celebrating everything paranormal.
A timepiece is a reflection of who you are, and what better way to show off the real you than with an Escape watch? Escape is a lifestyle brand accessorizing your days and nights. Choose to escape and create the life of discovery that you deserve. Dream, play, unite with your own personalized Escape watch. Head to escapewatches.com. There is no time like the present to enjoy your escape. Use promo code SMF2017 for your 20% discount today.
Looking for a place to advertise at a very reasonable cost? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. SpacedOutRadio.com has an advertising tab that you can click to check out our daily, weekly, and monthly packages to play on the radio, or our website including social media. From commercial spots to banners, we have it all. Check out our competitive pricing today.
Find yourself constantly looking up in the sky, looking for answers? Have you had extraterrestrial contact? Are you an abductee? Looking for answers to your experiences? Hi there, I'm R. Keith Andrews. Spaced Out Radio's resident ET expert. Join me live the first Friday of every month where I take questions from the Spaced Out Radio chat room and help you understand those from the far-off world. It's 2 hours of knowledge every experiencer should listen to. Hope to see you there.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
The Call of the Wild is in Vancouver. The Moose Vancouver is one of the hottest bars and restaurants in the city. Open until 2 a.m. nightly, the Moose will rock you like a hurricane all night long. Great food with everything on the menu at $6.95 near the corner of Nelson and Granville. Get your horns up and come rock with us. The Moose Vancouver, the official rocking bar of Spaced Out Radio.
Are you an experiencer? Have you had run-ins with strange creatures you can't explain? ETs, Dogman, Bigfoot, werewolves? They're enough to scare the daylights out of anyone. Hi there, I'm Butch Witkowski from your 4-Cop. And on the last Monday of every month, you can listen to me and the host, Dave Scott, talk about the weird and the strange being reported on Spaced Out Radio. I'm going to bring my investigations and sources, you bring your experiences, and we'll figure out the rest together. Strange Days on Spaced Out Radio. Come tune us in at spacedoutradio.com.
You hear footsteps in the empty room above you. A rocking chair begins rocking by itself. Don't be afraid of the things that go bump in the night. Reach for Spirit Storybox, the iPhone app the Huffington Post UK called the only ghost hunting app you will ever need. Spirit Storybox. The spirits are telling their stories. Are you listening?
You know, it's hard being the bad man of ufology, but that's just the way that I like it. This is Chris George Zuger, and I'll be hanging out with Dave Scott and SOR scientist Chris Cogswell for Reality Paranormal, the second Wednesday of every month. And our job is to break it down and come to conclusions as to what is really going on in the supernatural world. I'd love for you to join us and bring your questions for us to investigate right here on Spaced Out Radio.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com.
When it comes to the news, we look for the stories that the mainstream won't cover. Welcome to Spaced Out Radio's The Encounter. This is News Director Everett Thiemer. The Encounter is about the weird and strange stories that occur daily, and we scour the world looking to bring them to you. You can hear me with Dave Scott every Monday through Friday in our Encounter news segment. Read us online at spacedoutradio.com or check us out and give our Facebook page a like at SOR The Encounter. So come give The Encounter a read.
From the mile-high state of Colorado, sharing our signal around the world, I invite you to Spaced Out Sundays. Hi, I'm Tessa Nicole Thomas, and I'm closing out the week by taking you on a paranormal journey to the world of the weird. Ghosts, aliens, psychic phenomena, I will hit it all in your questions too. So let us highlight the paranormal for you. So come join me for Spaced Out Sundays starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, 12 a.m. Eastern, only at spacedoutradio.com.
The views and opinions expressed by tonight's guest and topic of discussion do not necessarily represent the official policy or position of Spaced Out Radio, Spaced Out Weekend, Spaced Out Radio Limited, its hosts, syndicated carriers, or anyone associated with this broadcast. You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott. Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and hashtag Spaced Out Radio, and on Facebook Spaced Out Radio Show. Now, back to the program.
Welcome back to the third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott. Thanks for being with us. Tomorrow night on the show, former Paranormal television star Dustin Pari is going to join us to talk all things ghostly. We get going at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern time at spacedoutradio.com. We welcome back to everyone listening in the SOR Radio Network and Deep Talk Radio. Don't forget to check out our archives as well, youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. They are free. Do me a favor, hit that subscribe button. Bill Cardwell has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Alexa Pharmac. Alexa Pharmac is your password. Make sure you use it wisely, Space Travelers, as Bill sets a password each and every night right here on the mighty SOR. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you. You can rock out to Bumblefoot, shop at our store, read up on the encounter online, and so much more at spacedoutradio.com. Everett Thiemer from the Encounter Online is with us tonight, talking all things strange and hairy. We had to make a guest change right through because we were told that Dark Waters, who was on the first hour, had a thunderstorm over. Yet Derek on Twitter posts that it's clear skies. Low of 76, winds light and variable. I don't know what the hell is going on. But nonetheless,
thunderstorms are dangerous.
Yes. Maybe it has to do with the tie to something else. I don't know. I really don't know. I'm going to think the best of it. I'm really going to think the best of it. And I'm going to hope that there actually is some sort of storm going on there. Because I like to be positive. Mr. Positive. You know, I like that. But nonetheless, we got a show to continue. We got to go on. So Everett's jumped on in here to hang out with us. And, of course, we're taking your questions in the chat rooms on Twitter as well. If you want to call in, 1-702-302-4556. We don't take a lot of calls around here. But when we do like to hear your voice every now and again. Nonetheless, show must go on. Gail was asking right before the break, what exactly is a skinwalker? Well, I can tell you, Gail. It is, in Navajo history and culture, a skinwalker is a type of harmful witch who has the ability to turn into, possess, or disguise themselves as an animal. Now, they also have a lot of different ways that they have to go there. All right? Lots of different ways. For instance, allegedly, you have to kill somebody. There's a lot of mystique around this creature. It is scary. Don't like them. Don't want to be around them. I think if there's anything ever that kind of freaks me out about these creatures, is the mystery behind them. And I just don't want to be a part of that.
Definitely. But, I think, too, in a way, the legend has been kind of adapted over the years and by different cultures, in the sense of there is that skinwalker, and that is the true skinwalker legend or myth or belief. But then there are so many people that take that idea and apply it to other events or other experiences. And I think, in a way, how do I put this? We need to go back and really focus on what the real true myth and legend and belief of the skinwalker is, because it is kind of getting, I don't want to say bastardized, but it's being adapted and changed where it's getting applied to things that it may not be appropriate to apply it to.
No, I fully agree with you there. I think it's something that is very, very evil and cunning and will do pretty much anything to grab and rip your soul out of your body. I'm going a little dramatic there, but nonetheless, I don't want to take the chance.
Even I did it a few minutes ago because, I've heard stories where people say it was a skinwalker, but it wasn't evil. So, even though I know what the legends are and what the beliefs are. Even in my own head, I still kind of begin to mix it up. And I think that it's important, especially with some of these First Nations or Native beliefs, that we keep them as original and as pure as possible.
Shar has a question here. She is asking, has anyone seen corpses of any of these cryptids? None that can be proven scientifically. Now, there were people back in the 80s, 90s, and in the early 2000s who tried to say that they had found the body of a Bigfoot. But basically, it was almost like a frozen body of a bear that had been shifted and made to look like it. There's also the person who said they had the head of a Bigfoot. That turned out to be fake. Anything to do with Bigfoot really has seemed to turn out fake.
It has, and there
are
so many instances where different people, or even churches to a certain extent, or organizations, say they have the remains or part of the remains of something tested, or when they do let it get tested, they're always shocked to see those results come back as something mundane.
Our weekend host, Tess Nicole Thomas, has joined us. Tess, what's going on?
Hey, guys. Oh,
Hey,
just
Tessa.
listening in. How are you, Everett?
Good, how are you?
Good. Well, you guys were on the topic of skinwalkers, and I actually grew up in Cortez, Colorado, so I went to school with Navajos and Utes, and heard lots of stories through my life. And growing up LDS, we would have missionaries over because we'd feed them sometimes, and I guess they had a freaky experience going up to Toyoak, and they got lost and started to go up the Sleeping Ute Mountain. And it's at the end of the day, so it's getting dark, and all of a sudden they see these wolf-like creatures start chasing the van, and they said they actually were punching the metal and grabbing onto it and shaking the van everywhere. And when they got back to town, they could see that there were actually, claw indents and punch marks and stuff like that in there. So that was one of the freakier ones that I'd heard. Growing up, I ended up living at the base of Sleeping Ute Mountain, and, I'd go outside to smoke. And one particular night I go out there and I sit down on the porch and, smoking, and all of a sudden I see all these lights, and they're approaching, and they look like eyeballs, coming closer and closer, and they're all different heights and distances apart, and they wouldn't come any closer than beyond the line of my porch light. So, of course, I go inside freaked out, thinking, we're at the base of Sleeping Ute Mountain. These must be skinwalkers. On another experience that I had going to Phoenix, Arizona to visit my mom and sister, and we're telling our kids, all these skinwalker stories we grew up hearing and stuff, and so we're on the lookout for anything, UFOs, skinwalkers, whatnot, and all of a sudden we see this truck on the side of the road, and its headlights are on, and the doors open, and the interior lights on, and nobody's in there. And then about a mile or so down the road, you see this. It looks like a tall blonde, but her stomach is like protruding so much that she looks like she had eaten someone. And her arms were actually like so lanky and long. Her fingers were basically at her knee level. And she was looking the other direction, so we didn't get to see her face, but that was quite a freaky thing to see. And all the kids were freaked out, like they didn't sleep forever. But yeah, and Dave was talking about Liz's skinwalker story, and I'm sorry if anything lands on your soft top, especially something with razor sharp claws, like at a certain weight, it's going to go through anyways. Like if I want to get in your soft top, I'm getting through. But definitely a skinwalker, if it's going to chase you and get on your vehicle, your soft top Jeep, it's going to come in. whether it's through your plastic windows or your top, But
scary. So I got to go back because you have never told me this story about this lady who was pregnant, about to give birth to a human, human, or just had a big full meal deal at one of the local Chinese buffets, one of the two. I mean, that is freaky. Like, did she look out of sorts, out of touch? Was she walking normally?
She was standing just off the side of the road, not too far past where we saw the truck with the door open. And, my first thought is, well, there's a pregnant lady, we should pull over. And then as we get closer, you can see her stomach is huge. Like, this isn't pregnant. This is like you said, all you can eat buffet doesn't mean you eat all the buffet. But, her stomach's protruding out of her pants and her shirt. You could see it actually poking out. And, to go along with that, her arms being so long and just weird. It's like something tried to take form of her, but it wasn't quite right. I don't know. It was really, really freaky.
Tessa, you said that she wasn't facing you guys as you drove past. Did it seem like she was intentionally avoiding looking at you guys, or was it that she was focused on something else somewhere else? Or, you know what I mean? You can see when you drive past somebody if they're trying to avoid looking at you.
Yeah, she was standing like to the side, but she was looking the direction we were driving. So she wasn't looking our way. So I don't know if, there was something in the area, perhaps another skinwalker or something had caught her attention. But she was not looking at us. So we didn't see her face or get to see her eyes or anything. But yeah, there was no way we were pulling over to investigate that.
I thought there were only male skinwalkers. I didn't know there were female skinwalkers.
There's actually a story I heard, and there were 2 dogs reported, basically coyote-looking wolf dogs, running along a vehicle at the pace of 45 to 50 miles per hour. Someone called the cops, and the cops came out, and they actually chased these dogs into this crevasse. If you're out here, it's like desert and rocks and, tall mesas, etc. But they, got them back into a dead end area. And by the time they made it back to where they were, it was actually a male and female. And they called into base and they told them that you can't arrest them because they're practicing their religion and they haven't hurt anybody.
Weird.
And
that's just scary.
Yeah, and from what Everett was saying, he's heard of malevolent and benevolent, and I've heard the same. A lot of them get their power from taking lives intentionally, but some children, while being born, their mother dies during childbirth, so they unintentionally take a life, but they still get that opening to practice that magic. So, you hear of light magic and dark magic. Ones that unintentionally take the life can practice, and they don't necessarily have to be dark. Others that, have intentionally taken a life are most definitely a darker form of that magic.
Very, very strange. Let's get to a question here from Trip in the chat room. How did the gifting site look, Captain? The gifting site, I have a feeling, is dead.
Oh, no.
Nothing has moved. We haven't had a print in that area. I mean, there's been some speculation as to whether or not there things are there. They're starting to log in the area. I just think our Sasquatch has left for the time being. We're going to leave it up, and we're going to just leave everything there for a while. But as for checking it every single week or every 10 days, I don't know if we're going to waste the time on that right now. Sasquatch isn't giving us anything. We got nothing. We're going to try and find a new area, and if we can find those prints that were noticed about a week and a bit ago, about an hour and some out of town, if those prints are still there and we can follow them and find out where they went in the forest there, we're probably going to set up a new site right there. So stay tuned. That's going to be cool.
Nice.
That would be cool.
Yeah.
Fresh prints, you got to think there might be something there. you know?
Hey, Dave, if I can flaunt my ignorance flag for a minute.
Yeah.
Let's go down the road of what are the differences between a skinwalker and a shapeshifter? Because that's another thing that people seem to, at least around here, they're beginning to use the terms almost interchangeably.
Tess, you want to jump on that?
I'm not sure. I grew up, around natives and hearing their stories and stuff, so, I'm educated on what a skinwalker is, but as far as shapeshifters, I'm not sure. When you guys were talking about dogmen earlier, there's a possibility it is a man-made thing gone wrong that escaped, possibly a pair, male and female, and that could explain how they mate. And why else would the government be interfering with people talking about it unless it was such? Or, there's been stories around for thousands of years of werewolves. I mean, would that be considered a shapeshifter? Something that can change form, not always intentionally? I'm not quite certain.
I don't know. I don't know that much about it. I mean, if anything has kind of made me eerie or given me the heebie-jeebies, it's the whole skinwalker thing. I don't even really like bringing up the topic. There's just there's just something screwed up about it, man. So I have, we talk about it on this show, but we don't go real too deep into it because I don't know if that's such a good thing. I really don't.
Yeah, and I've been trying down here to get someone in, hopefully, a storyteller, native storyteller, or someone who knows about it that can actually talk about it and give us, the exact correct details. But it's just a matter of finding someone that will. So hopefully I'll find somebody and we can find out more about the skinwalker. So I'm going to keep my fingers, toes, hairs, and eyes crossed that I do.
There was a question about the dates of our Paracon coming up here. It is September 28th through the 30th here at 108 Mile Ranch. Tickets are going to be going on sale very, very soon for that. So we will make sure that you guys are all filled in when tickets go on sale. You can go to our website, spacedoutradio.com, and pick them up there. All right, Claudia has a question, Ev.
Good.
She says, I have seen people's face change right in front of me, and when that happens, it seems to be a dark energy coming forward in the face. Has this happened to anyone else? Do you guys mind if I take this one?
Go ahead.
Yes. Yes, it happened. It happened to me about 6 weeks ago. And one of my investigators / tour guides on the ghost tour, this is actually the night I got attacked by the spirit in the barn. And one of my tour guides, Carrie, she just felt the need to go up on that catwalk where that spirit is. And for some reason, I followed her. And when she got up the stairs, she was just frozen. And I walked up and I said, "Are you okay?" She's like, "He's racing up to me." And I kind of looked and I turned. And then I looked at her and I got her to face me instead of having her attention on him, but put it on me. Well, apparently, Carrie and I were literally face to face. And I'm trying to calm her down. And she says that his face morphed out of mine. So, yes.
Wow.
Apparently, that's why I got attacked. He came right into old Davester. Came right in.
That's pretty weird.
Yeah, didn't even ask permission, Didn't even ask permission. But I was able to get all of his negative energy out of her and one other person's in our group, and that's weakened me enough for this dude to hit me. So that's what happened. And Mike Morin actually has a situation with that as well, at a different location where they were trying to get a spirit to talk at the Barkerville Museum in famous Barkerville, British Columbia. Old gold mining ghost town. And he actually had a spirit come Derek Whitesky Cloud, who was talking to Mike at the time, actually had a spirit's face come right out of Derek's face, and they actually got that on camera.
Oh.
Oh, that has to be weird.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, so yes, I have heard of it happening. It sucks, but, you know, what do you do? What do you do? Nothing.
But does it have to be a spirit or a ghost coming out of somebody's face? I mean, like I had an experience similar to that. And I don't know if you're familiar with what used to be called the Excalibur in Chicago. It eventually became known to be haunted, or there were rumors. It still went out of business even after that. But, you know, it was one of those haunted Metropolitan Club kind of things. And I was there and I looked at this guy, and just for like 1 second, his face changed into something that was completely different. It wasn't inhuman. It wasn't an alien. It was like his face completely morphed into something it wasn't. And I mean, it kind of affected me a little bit, because I didn't know at the time the history or the hauntings of the place, but it was a weird experience that to this day, I don't know exactly what to make of it, because it only happened. I mean, the whole event took just a couple of seconds and he walked away. And I don't know if I was supposed to take it as a sign, or, you know, somebody's alien's guard was let down for half a second. I mean, you hear so many different rumors or theories on how these different things happen. And I don't know what to make of it.
I don't know either, man. Really don't know what to make of it either. That's just eerie. Scary eerie.
And no, I hadn't had any alcohol or anything like that at the time.
Wow. Trip wants me to show Dustin the pic at the window. And the window pic for tomorrow. I will definitely do that. Let's get to a question from Claudia here. Or pardon me, Gail. Gail is asking, or more like stating, this is more statement, Gail, than question, Gail. Well, it's actually both. She goes, and yet you guys, as we were talking about skinwalkers and being afraid of them, and yet you guys will talk about ghosts. Why don't they make you uncomfortable?
I can't answer that.
I think I'm just so used to them.
We share beer. We share beverages and good times. Ghosts don't really freak me out. I mean, they do. I still get the jump. Like, if I see one, I'm like, bah! You know? Totally, bah! Literally, that sound, bah! Right? But they don't scare me as much. I mean, the entire symbolism behind the skinwalker is evil. Pure evil. Whereas a ghost is someone's spirit. Sure, it may be pissed off. May not be happy with its current situation. But it doesn't mean it's evil.
You know what I'm curious about, and this question kind of pertains to that, is with all of the experiences with ghosts that I've had, I'm always more afraid after the fact than during the experience. Almost every time. And I'm curious, I'd love to talk to a sociologist or a psychologist, or even maybe I should talk to a psychiatrist about this, but what kind of response is that, or why is it that, at least for me, it's typically after the fact that I'm more creeped out than during the experience?
Well, maybe you just, come to certain realizations or something, or I don't know.
Do you think it could be something to do with like a PTSD from the experience? And I'm gonna equate that to, okay, the idea that I noticed today that when I was driving, and I realized that I've been doing this for months, but when I'm driving into town or just driving around the highway, going to wherever I'm going, I'm always looking at the mountainside for smoke. Because I'm always thinking that forest fire is coming. Like, it's like a PTSD, Everett. So do you think maybe you have some sort of PTSD, albeit minor, to the situation?
But then wouldn't that mean I would always be looking for these things and ready to be afraid of them? I mean, and you and I have been on the phone when some weird things have happened in my studio. And, I don't typically talk about the experiences I've had, but, we've been on the phone where these things have happened. And I've been more creeped out after walking out of the studio and it's done and over with than during the experience. And I don't think that would be, I could see it immediately after being a little bit of some form of PTSD, but I don't think that in general it would be that, because I'm not on the lookout for this stuff.
Me either. It is weird, it is freaky, and I really don't know where to go with it. I really don't. All right. Hi, Sister Corey, finally making it into the chat room. You know what? Sister Corey here, who is helping me put on the Caribou Paracon September 28th to 30th, forgot to leave out a little bit of important information. So I'm going to say this. Sister Corey, who's not really my biological sister, but she's like my sister, became a grandmother again on the weekend.
Oh, congratulations.
Yes. I'm almost like family, and she kept the secret from me. I feel hurt. I feel abused. No. But nonetheless, I was, stalking her Facebook profile, and I saw this beautiful little baby. Absolutely beautiful, and a very proud big sister who's about 2. So, Corey, from all of us and all of our audience, congratulations to you and your family on another beautiful addition to your family. I love you, and I am so happy for you. You look so beautiful holding your new grandchild. Absolutely beautiful, Sister Corey. Absolutely beautiful. Actually, she did text me. I never got the text message. Message. Hey, Everett, should we allow Tessa to be in our little elusive club here? Or exclusive club?
We have a club? I'm part of a club?
You're part of a club, my friend. Let's do this thing.
You did it.
We are encountering the encounter tonight with Everett Themer as we take a look around the world at the news of the day. The news is always changing, and that's why we bring you the encounter. Don't forget to search Facebook for our latest news on our page, facebook.com/SOR The Encounter. Give it a like if you don't mind. Pretty soon we're going to be moving all our stories back to our website. Everett Themer. We are joined in our exclusive club by weekend host Tess Nicole Thomas. So, Tess, be prepared because Everett usually comes packing with some serious news heat.
Indeed.
Everett, give us a story, my friend. Start us off
Usually,
right.
Usually is the key word here.
Usually.
I was a little occupied the last couple hours. But actually, I know you said that no more poop stories.
All right. We'll allow
but
one.
Toronto has a serial pooper.
What?
Oh, no.
There is a man who is going around and he's pooping in different places. I mean, if you look on the internet, there is a description of him. And he's just going around and pooping in people's gardens and playgrounds and all over town.
I have no idea why I find this funny. idea why I find this funny.
You Canadians are so polite because you guys have even given him nicknames like the Pooping Tom. And the Fecal Felon. Come on, that's funny.
Yeah.
At one point, I can see the childish male humor in this, okay? I totally can see the childish male humor in this. All right? Because, I mean, what would Will Ferrell do? I mean, that's what it comes down to. You know, this is a Billy Madison kind of thing. But nonetheless, at what point do you have to say that you are screwed up in your head by going to drop a deuce in people's gardens?
Well, you know, I can understand, and there were theories that this was possibly somebody homeless, and then I can understand it. But apparently, this man who has been cited, they know him, they have a description of him. I shouldn't say they know him, they have a description. He brings his own toilet paper out when he is going to, do his business.
Wasn't there a lady busted for this about a year ago, 2 years ago, where she was continually dropping a deuce on the same person's yard every so often? Like, she was like a jogger, and then she would stop at this person's property, drop a deuce, and then, clean herself up, and then continue on with her jog. And she got busted. And Derek on Twitter is saying Colorado has a serial pooper too. This is bigger.
Wow.
This is bigger news than what I thought.
Maybe it's an SOR thing. No, I'm just kidding. What I was wondering about that guy, I wonder if he's a random pooper or if he has it all plotted out.
Oh, maybe there's a pattern to his pooping.
I don't know. Here's a sign that is taped up on the streets of Toronto. Thank you, Jeff, at #SpacedOutRadio on Twitter for posting this. It says, "Be aware, this man," and it shows 2 pictures of him, "is defecating publicly in the neighborhood early in the morning. The police have an active investigation to identify him. Should you see this man, please call police." Then it lists the phone number and the case number. Like, if I see him crapping on my yard, okay, I caught a guy who used to allow his dog to crap on my yard. Caught him one day, red-handed. And I told him, I said, "I know where you live. I'm going to fill up a bucket of my dog dew and dump it on your front porch if I ever see you do this again or allow your dog to crap on my yard again." Because he never cleaned it up.
Mm-mm.
It was ridiculous. Like, where do people get off on this? It's terrible. Terrible.
Well, I can't believe that they have to have an active investigation over this.
Yeah. Yeah, it's terrible.
It's so immature and it's so horrible, and I find it so funny, especially because it's Canadian. I can't pick on Florida today, so I have to pick on Canada.
All right. Well, here's the story. Thank you, Jeff, again for posting it. A man claiming to be the spokesman of a jogger dubbed the Mad Pooper, who was caught on camera publicly defecating on the lawns of Colorado homes, says the woman has no choice after a botched gender assignment surgery. All they do is quite the BS and do literally what these people are doing figuratively. Defecating in someone's yard is definitely not protected under the First Amendment, as this person was trying to say, and it is actually a crime. It's just terrible. Like, who does this? We got to move on. Story number 2.
Are you familiar with Kylie Jenner? And the whole Kardashian clan?
I heard the name. I try and stay as much away from that Jenner Kardashian thing as possible because I don't know. I just don't agree with socialites being famous for nothing.
Well, a comedian created a GoFundMe account hoping to raise the last $100 million to make her a billionaire.
What?
Yes.
Really? Why? Have there been any donations?
So far, at least as of a couple hours ago, the account has reached $36.
Why?
But I mean, if you have $900 million, now granted, this was started by a comedian. So you know that there's some humor behind this. But can you imagine, first of all, having $900 million?
No.
I mean,
is it really important? Is this the same Jenner who was dating the rap star who, for her 18th birthday, bought her like a Ferrari or a Lamborghini? One of those two? I get them all confused.
I have never seen an episode of the Kardashians or any of this Jenner Kardashian family. I don't follow any of it.
How is she worth $900 million? What has she done?
She has her name on some makeup. I mean, I know she has her Instagram followers and things like that. What have any of the Kardashians or Jenners really done?
Yeah, for the most part, I think it came from their reality show or whatever, allowing the cameras to come into their house. I'm sure that, helped them explode, but I'm not sure exactly why they are what they are. Like, it's very confusing.
Well, if you think about it,
I don't subscribe to that show either.
If you think about it, they literally made a name for themselves because of the OJ trial. Because their original father, I believe he's deceased, Robert Kardashian.
Yes.
Okay. Was OJ's original lawyer before the Dream Team. That's how the Kardashians became known.
Yeah, that was their first step into the public eye.
Yeah. It's just very weird.
I still don't know the story about how the mom in this whole story, how she hooked up with Bruce Jenner. I mean, that just seems like an odd combination. More odd now than it did 10, 20 years ago. But I don't even know how that came about.
I don't know.
And to be honest with you, I don't really care.
It's just weird. It's weird. And if that's what the Hollywood lifestyle is all about, I'll stick in the bushes here. I'll stick in the bushes. Story number 3, man, because I ain't donating to Kylie Jenner's $1 billion club.
You actually forwarded this one to me. It's a story regarding the possibility of an Alzheimer's drug being able to cause teeth to heal and regrow and essentially naturally eliminate cavities. I'm sorry, I haven't had a ton of time to research this, but I did look into it, and it's sort of one of those fake news stories. There is the potential that this drug, which is used to treat Alzheimer's, and I'm not even going to try and pronounce it. It can be implanted in or put in like a cavity and then have it sealed up, and it will help rebuild the dentin in there and heal it. It's not going to eliminate the need for dentists, like some people are kind of beginning to circulate. And at this point in time, it's only been tried on mice, and it's only a minor success. So we're a long way away from the idea of being able to just put something on your teeth and have them regrow or fix themselves. But the potential in the future is out there.
States like Arkansas are going to be so happy when that actually comes to fruition.
Oh, you had to go there.
Hey, I'm originally from Arkansas, and the most hillbilly person I ever saw was here in Colorado. I was so surprised. There was the skinny beanpole guy wearing his coveralls with no shirt, and then, his wife is like 10 times the size of him, and, they maybe had 2 teeth between them with a ton of little kids running around barefoot, but,
Most people call that a NASCAR race.
Yeah.
Hey, I don't live that far away from Route 66 Speedway. We have a lot of NASCAR people around here.
Nice.
I just can't imagine turning left for 3 hours. That does not impress me.
In just for fun, in my spare time, I do work with a stock car and rebuild it and play with it. But I have no desire to race it, and I have no desire to go to one of the races.
No.
Huh.
No.
You just like working on it?
Yeah.
It would
set that transmission on my chest and let me play, and I'm good to go. But I have no desire to sit there for 2 hours watching cars go in circles.
Joe says the toothbrush was invented in Arkansas because if it had been invented anywhere else, it would have been called a teeth brush.
Teeth brush.
All right.
Good one.
Yeah, we're cutting this one off. But you know what? It would be cool because there are a lot of children, especially in third world countries or even poor children around our great nations of Canada and the United States that maybe mom and dad can't afford dental. And therefore, because they're not taught proper hygiene or cannot afford proper hygiene, they don't get the ability to do so. So I think it would be absolutely fantastic to see these some kind of drug like this or compound like this work, so that way there would be hopefully a cheap resolution, so that way so many people don't lose their teeth.
Where I see more of a possibility here is if it can be put in and packed in a tooth and help rebuild that tooth, when is it going to be used to help rebuild bone structure?
Exactly.
In osteoporosis cases or things like that.
Yeah, or you get those children who are, and I'm sorry, I always go back to children, but I mean, there's those kids who are born with that brittle bone syndrome.
Oh, yes.
That if you could somehow glue their bones together so they're not breaking just by a hard wind being blown during the day, that would be incredible. Absolutely incredible.
I mean, we can sit here and joke about it being for teeth, but there are a bunch of different possibilities for it.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Let's go to the final one of the night.
You're familiar with Dan Aykroyd, right?
Yes.
Some people might claim him as a Canadian. Well, he lives in Chilmark, Massachusetts, and he's had an active career or interest in the paranormal. Well, he put out a video about 15 years ago, and apparently now he's beginning to try and do some UFO work on Martha's Vineyard. In fact, one of the things that he did find out, or that's coming out of this, is that in '63, JFK had an event or a UFO sighting off the coast of Massachusetts on his boat, and I had never heard that before.
Wow. I'd never heard that either, man. Never heard that either.
Well, I've heard that he's had different alien/UFO experiences, and he's actually one of my dream guests. Like, he's at the very top of my list of who I'd like to talk to, because I've always been a fan of the Blues Brothers and like basically anything he does. But yeah, he's got some really interesting alien and UFO stories for sure.
Well, I mean, that goes back to his days in Canada with his grandfather and father having experiences as well. And, I mean, he has been somebody fighting for the openness of disclosure for a number of years, and he's even gone public on a video with David Sarita saying about how he had been visited by Men in Black and had the helicopters over his house and been followed by black SUVs and blacked out cars. I mean, this is a guy who has done quite a bit in this field, and then all of a sudden he kind of went silent for a while to work on his Crystal Skull vodka company, which, by the way, is very, very good.
Yes, I would like to have some of that.
Yes. I actually, believe it or not, got served one by Dan Aykroyd at the Roxy in Vancouver. When he first came out with it, they were doing a promo tour. And he was actually tending bar at the Roxy in Vancouver, and they were handing out vodka, Crystal Skull vodka, all night. So I actually got a shot of that. It wasn't bad. Wasn't bad at all.
That's so freaking awesome, and I'm so jealous of you.
Yes.
Vodka's great, but back to the real story here. I mean, you're right about Dan Aykroyd, and he's been quite public about his UFO and paranormal experiences. But what about the idea that essentially JFK, it's on record now that JFK had a UFO experience?
Well, that goes along with Jimmy Carter. I believe Richard Nixon. Do you believe the story of Nixon taking Jackie Gleason to, where was it, Area 51 or Wright-Patterson to view the bodies of aliens from Roswell? Remember that story?
I remember that, and I'm on the fence with that one.
It is kind of weird.
Well, another thing that's cool about Dan is he doesn't just see them. One of his stories was how he was, laying in bed with his wife. I think she was asleep, and he was wanting to get up and go outside, and she's like, "Where are you going?" And he's like, "They want me to go outside." And she's like, "Just come back to bed." And I think he did end up going outside. I'm not sure, but he not only sees them, he just, gets these messages from them, and it makes you wonder, like, has he been taken or implanted, or, what's going on there?
I'm sure he has. I'm sure he's been taken numerous times. He just seems, well, he's a good Canadian kid, so why wouldn't they want to check him out? Why not? That's my opinion. I'm sticking to it.
Yeah.
The Canadianism has some pull. We're going to get to the thought of the day right now. Thought of the Day happens every night at this time, where during the day we put a question on our Facebook and Twitter pages, and we get you to respond with your answers. So today's Thought of the Day is as follows. Do you think personal intuition should play a part in investigations, and why? Tess, we'll give you first run at this.
Well, I actually answered it today on the Facebook, but I do believe you should use your intuition, aka gut. I think you pick up on more than you would if you were just going willy-nilly and, not. And also, there's oftentimes dangers when you are out ghost hunting and stuff, and it could keep you from getting hurt. How you sometimes get that message not to go this way or watch where you're stepping or whatever. I think it's very important.
Me too. Everett, you got to call on the intuition part.
I think, of course, it's got to be used. Even if you think it's not being used, you're using it. What makes you open up a door? You just have a weird feeling to look in that room or that closet or whatever. I think, of course, it should be used, and it is used, even by the people who say it's not.
Catherine says on Facebook, no, investigation should be all about fact and no thought at this time of the initial investigation. Basically, when a scene investigation, whether paranormal or crime happens, it needs to be 100% collecting facts. Then, once the initial investigation is done, have a sensitive implore their techniques and then have another third party look over both sets of information from both investigations and, if needed, bring to the attention of the fact crew. But facts are what matter. Remember, there are multiple stages to an investigation. Very true. That's making the paranormal think too much, I believe. Kevin.
When did facts become important in the paranormal?
Yeah, we're still trying to figure that one out. Kevin states, of course, it's the intuition of a good investigator that makes them a great investigator. Reverend Keith, yes, intuition can direct you to more facts and may help you put pieces of the puzzle together. It should not be used as the verdict, but a tool to arrive at a conclusion. David, from the Free Experiencers. It has to, but you have to be clear about how you are reaching your decisions. Eric with a K? Yes, personal intuition comes from meeting and speaking and observing those people making fantastic claims. A person's sincerity can be best determined after time and also observations of their words and mannerisms and behaviors. Let's go over to Twitter. Danny states, absolutely. I believe the more you work around the paranormal, the more you learn their ways. Your experiences have elevated your awareness or the presence And the more you look, the harder they look back. So being able to pick up on that is an asset. Trust your instincts. What do you think about that, Tess?
I think that's right on.
Excellent. Excellent.
Yeah, you got to trust your instincts.
All right, let's get back to our Facebook. Cindy? Yes, I think our gut feeling should be taken into account. It can tell us before equipment if something is around. I think many people have forgotten how to pay attention to it. It should balance in with the equipment. Just my opinion. For you personally, sure. Or this is Chuck. For you personally, sure. I think it's where all ideas start, a new theory or something to look for, but not for anything that's going to be reviewed or presented as proof of anything to others. For that, stick to the facts. What can you prove? Interesting. But isn't the experience some sort of proof, Ev?
I would think it is, because what does a K2 meter really prove?
Mm-hmm.
What does anything prove?
I agree. What does any of the gear prove? Just because it's made electronically doesn't mean that it's proving anything. I would agree with that. That's a big statement. You're bold tonight, Everett Themer. Bold.
Well, thank you, I think.
Grant comes in. Yes, and I have no better reason than to say I trust mine. Jan Aldrich, just on the show a couple weeks ago, says, okay, but it should be defined as such. Vivster, it should be at least considered as more times than can be counted, has turned out to be correct. I would agree with that statement. And it reminds me of what Tessa also says, guys, about, if you're not listening to your intuition, it could get you into some very, very deep trouble. Very deep.
That's not just in the paranormal. That's in general.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. Exactly. Oh, do I listen to that little voice. Ever since my ATV accident, I listen to that voice.
Yeah.
Melissa, if it can't be supported by physical, incontrovertible... What the hell is incontrovertible? Is that even a word?
Yes, it is.
Oh, wow. She's got a big dictionary. Evidence, then no. Jeremy, I believe mediums or let's read it the way he put it. I believe mediums or physics should be used more in missing persons cases. Now, I'm going to say that autocorrect got him there for psychics. I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. Jeremy's good people. Mm-hmm. Mandy, number one, it's led me to now. It started in February 15th, 2015. I jumped all in last weekend, April. In the last weekend of April 2015, listened, gave it a shot, had faith in it, and yes, I am. Yes, I am 100% here. Good for her. Mary, always. Nice, short, brief answer. Renee, absolutely. As many of us know, what we feel and hear has much to do in an investigation along with your intuition, along with any physical evidence you may get. And that's where we're going to leave it. Right there. Tessa Nicole Thomas, you're going to have a good weekend this weekend. Thank you for hopping on in early. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Everett Themer, thanks for coming on in for the last 2 hours of the show. You are a trooper, my friend, a trooper.
I'm always amazed when you take my call.
Yeah, it always seems to happen. All right, guys, you hold on. I got to wrap this thing up. Tomorrow night on the show, I'm very much looking forward to this one. Really cool dude. Dustin Pari joins us, former paranormal television star, still into the paranormal field, brings in his personal beliefs into the entirety. We're going to get into it tomorrow, talking all things ghostly at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern time at spacedoutradio.com. We got Mr. Ron Bumblefoot THAL rocking in the background with Little Brother is Watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself, Special thanks to everyone listening in at home, in your cars, at work, wherever you may be. And a big thank you to everybody participating on Spreaker tonight. You were absolutely fantastic. Thank you for your wonderful questions. Everyone on Twitter at hashtag Spaced Out Radio, especially you, Desert Clam, for bailing me out a couple of times with the articles and the photos. Appreciate that. And another packed house at the Veterans Club, the SOR Space Travelers on Facebook. Wonderful, wonderful participation from you. Thank you so much for sharing this show. Thanks for telling your friends and doing your part to help us become bigger and better every single night, because together, my friends, we own the night. I will talk to you in 21 hours from now. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Have a good one. Good night.
Watching.